Yeah. Okay, call this work session to order Wednesday, April 17th. Um, Before I start with visitor comments, Councilor Morton had a doctor's appointment, so he will be showing up late. Okay? The VA had to reschedule him, so open it up for visitor comments. Come on up, Joan. You know, I just recently learned that you and I share the same birthday.
Happy belated
Yes,
birthday.
yes.
I want to tell you a little story about my birthday. For years and years, it was ruined because my husband would be doing the taxes, and it would be like we were so angst by the time we got to celebrate the birthday that
I
yeah.
feel
And then
ya.
a couple years ago, I said, I just want somebody else to do the taxes for my birthday. Can we do that? And it's been much better since. Anyway, last year, the Columbia Art Guild and the Columbia County Coalition, Cultural Coalition, with donated funds, we spearheaded the Tiny House Project, which is now, thankfully, on display semi-permanently at the Chamber.
Yep.
And I think it was well received by the community. Well, we have come up with another project, and we're hoping that we can display this project in the plaza. And when I went to go do the regular gig, I guess there's some change in who's responsible for that. Because last year I went through the county to do that, and I'm not quite sure. But I got an email said to come here. So this year's project is called Flagship Columbia County. And this is what we're doing. And I'm hoping that we can hang them willy-nilly, but very securely and very safely in the plaza. They could go up. My plan is, my last painting event is June 3rd. They could go up anytime after that. The construction of this is a lot easier than the other.
Yes.
So that is what I am here for today, to see how we feel about that. And they're meant to be viewed at a distance, so they wouldn't bother any other things going on there. It's much like the Christmas lights or something like that, where it's just a decoration for the season. And they would be there for as long as you would allow them.
Thoughts?
Are they waterproof?
This is Tyvek, and Tyvek is a house wrap that you wrap your house with before you put the siding on. It is very waterproof, and it is proven by many artists, not just me, that acrylic paint on this is waterproof.
Tyvek is also used for sterilizing instruments, so it's good stuff. That's
Yeah, it's
the
very.
question
It's,
is,
and
what
it,
was it? That's
yeah,
all.
and relatively inexpensive. So that's why it was what I chose. Because when you're going to have thousands of people do it, you kind of need to keep the cost down.
I mean, based on how the houses were received, this seems like easier for you, easier, less expensive overall, and it was great to see the community work together for something.
Yeah, I still have people stop me and say, I found mine, or my family found mine, or I brought my mom over and I showed her mine, and it really is something that is that can bring the community together with
Well, I
no
expected
questions.
the house project to be the installation to be the big draw, but actually the process of you painting the houses
Is
was as much of a community event as the hanging
yes,
of the display, because it brought people together to participate in a common goal.
yeah.
So
And this time it is slightly easier. This is much messier, but it's slightly easier because people understand the concept. Oh, I'm going to do this teeny part, and they're going to put it together, and everybody's going to get to enjoy it. And that's what the houses showed.
do you have a
And,
plan on how to hang them?
I do. I just purchased a riveter or whatever to put holes in
Grommets?
these, and grommets. Thank you. And this is a parkboard. I also am thinking that a good idea would be carabiners at the end, so we could just kind of put them around and not choke any trees, or you could wrap them around. It will take some thinking to do it. but I don't think it's. And we're gonna put them together in 12 flag links that could be connected with the carabiner, and then could connect to
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
Yeah. So.
I think if you have the plan that you do it, not me, or Public Works, that seems awesome. I think the idea is great. I just worry about the fallout if we have to have Public Works. do it.
I actually, this one is a little less expensive, and I got a little bit more money than last time, so I think I can maybe rent one of those whatever, some kind of elevation
Hydraulic
ladder,
things.
hydraulic something, and procure a few people that would volunteer to do that.
Yep.
If you get 1,000, that's 80 strings. If you get 1,000 of those,
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
I'm trying to think of where 80 strings are going to go is the question.
You know,
It's a bigger park than it looks.
Yeah, and I did some math, and I'm a good estimator, and I had a couple people follow up, and we're only looking for about half as many as we got about 3,500 houses. We're looking for about 1,700 flags, and yeah, I know, but you want it to be not, oh, there's a couple flags in the park. You want it to be flags in the park. So, and this is flagship Columbia County. I have events in Vernonia, events in Rainier, events in Claxonite, events in Scappoose. So that's why we went from just the city to out further, because we wanted to pull more people in.
Well,
We
it sounds-
use other than trees to hang them on is the real question. Not, I mean,
And
we'll
the-
run out of trees.
And well, you'll hang them from tree to tree. So you could go from one tree 4 times at 4 different places, and you have your light poles out there as well. Yeah, so I think it's
if it has
doable,
if it's waterproof,
right?
environmental friendly, and it's not going to cost the city any money,
It won't.
I don't see why we wouldn't want to do a community art project. I don't see the reason. It's temporary.
Yeah, and it is temporary. And if the city wants to come in and watch how we're hanging it and make sure that it's working for them, that's fine. It'll probably be the first week in June. But I think when we're having all this music down here, it's going to be a great thing to see.
It could be a good thing having it up. I know that you struggle with the houses with timing.
Yes.
But I think having it, because that'd be like right around when 13 Nights starts.
Sorry. Yeah, we might
Be
miss
prior
the
to
first couple.
be even prior to the Kiwanis Parade, which ends down here.
Yeah.
Brings a lot of people down there. Would look really festive and really,
Mm-hmm.
really awake
Yeah.
for those events getting started at the beginning
Yeah.
of summer. So
And we
if it doesn't
can
cost us.
we can keep them up as long as you want to. Just give me a heads up when I would need to get them down. And I think that's all that I have to say. I mean, I've thought it out, and it's not just my thoughts. I run it by other people, and
So Kathy, does it go to Arts Commission? Or has it been to Arts Commission?
it has been to Arts Commission. The Arts Commission voted to support it. I don't need any money from them. I just wanted their endorsement.
Okay.
And they
just
voted.
because we have a procedure that the Arts Commission sees everything.
Yes, and they voted for
Okay.
it.
The reason why it's coming before you guys is because Joan has to get permission, I believe, from the county.
No, wow.
See, that's what I'm
They
not
pointed her back.
understanding. Yeah,
That is,
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple layers to this. The county owns the courthouse. For the events that we do, we submit letters of basically indemnifying or hold harmless agreements with the county, which requires insurance and some other things for the activities that go on throughout the year. We've been working with them on a blanket agreement, like a long-term. We don't have that in place quite yet, so we're doing them individually.
But it's real close, yeah.
For the sculpture that's out there right now, the county has been indemnified of any kind of liability with that.
Oh, okay.
So the question in my mind is whether you're asking the city to put it as part of a project, or if you're going to go, or you're going to do it.
Well-
You're going to work with the county, and you're just here to ask for the city for the blessing.
Well, that's
Well,
I hear kind of both. So I hear
When-
I have to.
When I applied to use the park through the county, they said, "Oh, you guys need to go talk to city council," which I did come talk to you guys last year about the other project, but it was more just because I wanted you to know. And the reason that I thinking now they need it is the insurance.
Yeah, and that's what
What,
you needed
what
last year.
insurance piece we can use. And they did do one with the little houses. I did not have to get insurance, any kind of insurance.
You did
to-
you did get insurance from us.
From you, right?
Yes.
Right. But I didn't personally have to go out and get it.
No, you got the insurance from us. We
From the
gave
city.
we gave the county our insurance
Right.
to cover you.
See, and that's what I'm asking for. I guess.
Exactly.
It's I would need the city to put the event, the art commission, approved event on their rider or whatever you do insurance wise.
The only problem that I see just on the first look is we have volunteers sign a release, so does the county whenever they volunteer. And doesn't that make Joan a volunteer in that park? So if she's out there hanging from a tree, hanging a flag, and falls, is that our problem?
Potentially.
Essentially, yeah.
So I mean, would she sign a release and then it's her own health insurance?
That is exactly how it went last time. I was considered a volunteer for the city, and being a volunteer for the city, I could use the insurance. That's, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't privy to all the
Lots of stuff happens behind the scenes.
back talk or backroom talk. But
Sounds
that's
like a few little logistic things that we need to discuss, but it sounds like you got a census of, I think, pretty much everybody okay with that, right?
Sounds like we need to direct staff to make it happen.
Yes.
well, I'd appreciate that.
Your microphone's not on, Mr. Keith.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
and
Joan.
I look forward to hearing from you.
Yep.
I'll give you a call.
Okay, other visitor comments. Come on up, Bill. And please state your name for the record.
Bill
Name and
Amos.
address.
First of all, a couple of years ago, I sat here and asked you folks for some help for a young man that had lost function of the lower portion of his body, and you supported that, and now he's on your youth council and supporting you, and I just want to say thank you. It should feel good that it's going full circle there. Also, a little bit of congratulations on the rec program as part of that committee. It's pretty exciting to see the things that are happening within the rec program and the partnership between the school district and the city, and the fact that we're not competing, we're working together in those kinds of ways. My first reason for really being here, though, was a couple of years ago, I worked very hard to get rid of a road easement through St. Helens Community Bible Church and negotiated a easement through Pam Wrench's property from Chase over to the city park. In exchange for that, we put in some water lines and fire hydrants and extended sewer lines and did some other things. So that's a kind of a historical thing, but it's my understanding that that easement may disappear. And you have a road right now that goes from Chase all the way across and over to your park facility. I know it's tempting to just say, well, we can access it from Millard or Millard, if you're local. But anyway, we can start that debate anytime.
It's Millard.
So the point is that there's value to your land, and that value will diminish if you lose the back door. And so my recommendation is for you to fully establish that as a road right-of-way. I think you could put in a narrow gravel improvement, and I would put it actually on the, I believe it's the north side of the easement, opposite the church property, only because the water lines and everything are right adjacent to the church property, and so you kind of stay out of that, and also you have established your full territory. And name it. Just name it as a... So Pam's husband died. He was a fireman, died of cancer, and it was not a good day. But maybe, you know, give it a name. I don't care. You could call it Wrench Lane. You can call it something. Call it Memory Lane. I don't care. But you need to put something in there, name it and establish it. And this is a roadway, so that in the future, if you sell that property, anybody that develops it has a back door that's necessary in development. So it also helps with firefighting for anything that you do in your park. And but it's kind of coming down to, if you don't do something very soon, and
I brought Jacob down.
yeah, you may find that there's a sunset date on that easement. That's my concern, is we worked hard to get it for you, and if there's a sunset date, you need to make sure that you stay in the daylight.
So I'm going to go to our city planner just for a quick second, Jacob Gretchen. If he can get a mic there, there he goes.
This is not the best place for talk between. Yes, I am familiar with this easement. I remember it was recorded, and I put a copy in one of my plans, thinking, well, this is something we need to track.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill is mostly right in his details. This was, and I wasn't aware of the negotiation with the church and the wrenches and all that stuff, but I'm well aware of the easement. This was recorded back in March of 2009,
Okay.
so, you know, a decade ago. And back then it was the Millard Road Hospital project. Still seemed like there was a path for it. Of course, now we know that that project died on the vine. And I talked about this. Oh, I've talked about individual counselors about this over the years, here and there. And then last June, when we were talking about, you know, zoning of that property, I had mentioned it. I know I talked to you about it, Rick, at some point.
It's been on my mind for a long time.
Yeah. And back then, if you looked at that whole property between Millard and I think Maple to the north, but you know, the creek, the bottom third abutting Millard was the hospital property. The rest was ours. Of course, the hospital property failed. It was a hot potato. The county had the hot potato, and then we ended up with it. And it looks like, you know, at the time, the hospital didn't want a road going through there, and so these easements were negotiated. I wasn't personally involved in the easement negotiations, so I don't know the history. I just know of its existence and the details of it, which I'll get into a little bit. So it seemed like that was a way around the hospital property. Our transportation systems plan has identified a collector street, which is a 60-foot right-of-way going through that property since 1997. And the one thing that always I found peculiar is that I can't remember how wide Chase Road is. It may only be 40 or 50 feet wide, and this easement is only 50 feet wide. And so it may have been a compromise. I'm not sure. But in any case, Bill's right. Currently, we do have that easement. It is both an access and utility easement. Now, one of the contingencies in this document, and you know, I've known where to find this for for about 10 years. So when Rick said the easement, oh yeah, that thing. So what it says, if city does not develop city property, which is the northern 2/3, more or less, within 11 years after the effective date, Fix or Wrench, so there's two property owners at the time, Bill had mentioned Wrench, may terminate all private access easements granted to the city by sending a written statement for termination to all other parties. So it's not automatic, but it certainly gives them the power if it's not developed, and that deadline is March 2020.
Pam's maiden name is Fixed, just for the record.
Oh,
Yep.
oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
So maybe it was one,
Yeah.
just a couple then.
Mm-hmm.
But one important thing to recognize is, as I mentioned, this is both a utility and access easement, and it doesn't say that the utility easement goes away. I don't know if that was an oversight or if that was intentional. But in the contingency, it only says the access easement goes away, so we could still potentially use it for a utility if needed. Now, where so the point is, how do we prevent then to be able to ride off that easement?
Yeah, because that's a Cherrywood Drive is 50 foot with sidewalks.
Cherrywood?
Yep. I'm using that for an example because
Oh,
I asked Sue about when we were vacating.
Standard neighborhood street.
Yep, 50 foot two sidewalks and a.
Yeah. So yeah, we could. That's our local class, and we could work with it. So even though we don't need to bypass what was the hospital property, it still may be of value for as far as building envelope, because there's a lot of environmental constraints on that property with wetlands, floodplains, and stuff like that. So in order to prevent the write-off, it needs to be developed.
Would you agree that maybe gravel, of course, to code, a gravel base?
Well,
It may be that the park needs some development.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
kind of the language.
yeah. Let me finish.
Okay.
It'll make. Well, hopefully it'll make sense. So what it says is, for the purposes of the agreement, development means an approved application from an applicable government entity, which would be us, which includes construction of infrastructure or other improvements on the property. So there needs to be an application for development or to establish a land use.
So the 75-foot buffer that we are proposing to put as a park, no matter what happens there on the creek, we could do something in that area potentially.
Potentially, if it's a trail or something. But the point is we need a development application by March 2020 in order to prevent that from being eliminated. And kind of where we're at, and so it's a juggling game, and what do we prioritize and what. So a year ago we were talking about the zoning, and we kind of pressed pause on that because we wanted to do the housing needs analysis, which we're wrapping up now, so we had better information about how we want to drive the ship as far as zoning. So figure out zoning, and it could be as simple as doing that and or applying for a park on that. So certainly a discussion that's germane at this time, but that's what I know in general without getting too much into the weeds.
Okay. I apologize for, I did talk to Bill about this a little bit and should have notified you a little bit in advance, but I didn't.
That's okay. That's life in the big city.
Yes.
It's a work session.
I just feel that this is vitally important that I've been talking about it for about the 3 years since I've been mayor.
Yeah.
Almost. And 2.5. And we need to be moving on it and make sure we don't lose that easement because it is a Cherrywood coming out the back door.
And I remember when they recorded this, and it's been 10 years now, but I remember in my head, oh bleep, oh bleep, oh bleep.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you keep this on someone's radar? Clearly, and I've been thinking about it, but yeah, the time's coming up.
Yeah, and just with the weather getting ready to change, we're going to do a gravel road. Now would be the time to start thinking about it and scheduling it with Public Works because they're very busy.
That's
anyhow.
not gonna. It's development of the city property. Putting gravel on the easement doesn't vest it.
So,
Right. So what you might do is put a trail through from the bridge to that location. You could even is development considered even just a nature trail or something of that? So how big does development have to be? So those are questions that you have, and those are for you guys to figure out.
So, and anybody out there listening to us, because we do get watched every now and then, this is Bill Amos, and it's hard to hear because you have to speak loudly in that, but sat on our planning commission for how long, Bill?
22 years.
22 years as on the planning commission, so he was familiar with this whole process.
Then I graduated to school board.
But couldn't we use that? I mean, the housing needs, it's just a matter of using the housing needs assessment as a placeholder for this and instructing staff to look at options to bring back for us to.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think the chances are of just getting like a 5-year extension?
I'm not Pam. I think that,
Shouldn't we
that
talk about that first choice, possibly?
Why would-
I would just say that I wanted to bring it to your attention so
Right.
that people can start doing investigating and have a little bit of a sense of urgency that a year from now is going to be too late to start.
Right.
And so that was just my notion on that. I have some other thoughts, by the way, that we're going to go on. And so I'll just, it was an attention getter, and I think we did that.
Yep.
So the bridge,
Can I want to kick in with, what is the minimum requirement for developed? 7-footer trail, a sign, $37 million thing. What's the minimum to satisfy develop?
Porta
Well,
potty.
per the agreement, and this is, you can drive a Mack truck through this, means an approved application from a government entity which includes construction of infrastructure or other improvements on the property.
Now I'm looking at the other improvements.
So that could conceivably be a trail if we have an application that approves the construction of it. Now, if the easement grantee thinks that bogus, they can always hire attorneys and fight it based on
But they can
ill
find anything
intent.
on
But
that.
but,
Doesn't
but
give-
this is a very broad definition of develop. And so one could argue that it could be minimal as long as we can save face and say this is. I think we would. We want to be careful of making stuff up. We want to be able to say this is normally something that we would have to approve anyways, to be able to look everybody in the eye and say, we're doing something honorably.
Well, the fact is wetlands there and we want people to go enjoy them. We need a trail for the green people to go enjoy this green space. Is that considered developed?
Yeah, so in order to establish a park, in years past, we've determined that it is a land use. It requires approval by the applicable authority. A lot of times we punt it to the planning commission, even though it may be a staff decision, because the city is a lot of times the applicant, and it could be establishing the northern portion as a nature park with trails. And I think that would meet the intent of what this says. It would match things we've done in the past, and I think it would be hard to argue that we're just making something up.
Jacob, how full is your plate?
well, they
You
just
know
ate
where I'm going
lunch.
with this.
It's
The
very full.
plate is in 1,000 shatters due to the weight.
Yes. Okay. But you have an assistant that maybe could help you out with this?
Yeah, we'll have to. So, do you want to do something before we figure out the zoning?
Ooh, yeah, we want to make sure we want to make sure whatever we need to do legitimately in order to keep that easement.
But the
So we're not having this discussion, and I'm not having sleepless nights. and
Yeah.
talking to Bill Amos out of the blue about, hey,
but as
Well,
Wait a minute. You're
Jacob-
having sleepless nights over this?
gosh, I know.
Jacob pointed out, the housing needs analysis, the assessment, the final meeting is coming up just in a couple of weeks.
So,
I
So
get
we'll
that.
get the report, and to Jacob's point, can we make it one conversation about zoning and what improvement? And make it one conversation, let's talk about that property after we have all the information.
I think having your, if I can butt in, having facts is a little bit easier to make a decision than conjecture. So that sounds reasonable, but it does take time and process if you're going to design something and get an application
Yep.
to go. I will tell you that the school has for years used that wetlands study area. It was in fact school district property, and they still use it. The biology classes go over there and use it. So even if there was a small gazebo or some kind of little covered thing near the wetlands that kids could take their notes with or use, and there was a trail. The public
built the
likes to
bridge, right?
walk and ride their bikes, and they would definitely ride through there from one road to the other. Absolutely, they would, even if you just made the trail go out and then connect somehow to Millard. That definitely people would use it. I I've got a couple other shots here. That bridge, by the way, does have, when we designed it, we put in, I built it. When we designed it, we put in a hangar space for infrastructure such as a sewer line or additional water line, things like that. I know McNulty Water has a line across it, and it's designed so that you can access that space, and the bolt holes are already drilled for hangars. So there's things that are there that you may not be aware of, but I think I got the plans a long time ago to somebody here as well as to McNulty. But we can, it's set up to be used for utilities. It never did get the cover placed on it. I retired and the budget went punk, but it's set up already there. Some simple sheets of metal roofing stuck on that would be good, and you might get the high school construction class to help you with that. They built the superstructure.
We'll talk to you more about this, Bill.
We'll talk more
You have
about that
something
later.
else? I noticed you got another cue card there.
I do have another cue card there. So I actually have two things here. So I'll rotate my hat just a little bit. I did want to say that if you chose to at some point dispose of that segment of property, the road would certainly help you, and that may have, I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my hat here, but that may have greater value in converting that asset to existing parks, a development of more desirable park lands that would get greater general use, places where there would be ball fields or things of that sort. So that is a marketable asset and should be part of your consideration. I also want to say that the city school district partnerships have encouraged the community, and actually now there are individuals that are interested in public-private partnerships. And I think that what you're doing is you're developing a sense of community here. All this stuff about Connect St. Helens, and Rick and I went to see Family Link over in Longview, and we're starting to link the community together in ways that haven't happened in the past. And so the school partnership has been a good one. This 2 weeks ago, and this sounds like an aside, but it's not, I went to a youth football tournament in Seattle, and the families that went there dropped $1 million on that little part of Seattle. One high school, a couple turf fields, and away they went. And I think that you're starting to think that way, and certainly our community resources for things like if you sell one park and you develop another one, bringing in softball tournaments or soccer tournaments or things of that sort have real economic value to the community. And
I got the head girls soccer coach back.
Yeah, I know.
He's
I can
shaking
hear it
his head.
shaking.
Yes, yeah.
I can, there's a rattle going on back there. And one that's, I know McCormick, Campbell, but the one that's of my immediate concern, and now the school board hat is off completely, but as a former coach, and as I just work with kids all winter long outside, and so does our soccer coach back there, but I think it's, I don't know why it was done this way. I think just for money to make sure that they could do it, but the middle school is going to be putting in a new field, and right now it's scheduled for hydro seed. So it won't be ready for a year, and then after a year after that, I've been on our dirt fields all winter long, and for 9 months out of the year, they're pretty much unusable. And so another thing I would ask is, again, that the city consider partnering with the school district and our private partners and our local groups, and see if we can't together put together, at least there, it's not built yet. You don't have to tear it out. You don't have to rip out a bunch of stuff. It's going to already have an rubber asphalt track around the outside. All that part's done. It's going to be graded. They got to put in the drainage, so it's a lot less than developing a brand new field. A lot of that substructure is being done, and it would be worth it to join somehow. If people within this group could have conversation with the school district and partner with that, and maybe then we can draw some other folks in.
Are there grants out there for stuff like that, Bill?
What's that?
I'm sure there are grants out there.
Sure, but they want to see you develop. There are grants. If you go to large people and say, build me a soccer field, when they stop laughing, you'll have already gone deaf, you know. So, but if you say, hey, we've put in this money, we've got this and this, and we need some help to make it happen, they like to help. They want you to, they don't want to be it. They want to help a group. So if we have enough buy-in from multiple groups, I think that there's a possibility then that we can go out and work for grant and get it done. The downside is time is getting shorter and shorter, but at least we can have that conversation and move it forward. This probably isn't the time to do. What I want to do is I want to.
He's planting the seed. That's what he's doing.
I want to plant turf. I don't want to plant seeds. But anyway, I'm just throwing a little crumb rubber out right now. But that's just a thought that's a good first start. And I know that soccer uses it, youth sports use it. If you go over to the football field any given day, it's used year-round. PE can be outside more. There's a lot of things that we can do. And as the city partners, I know we're putting in pickleball courts at the middle school, 5 of them, all painted in the gyms so that Parks and Rec here can have a pickleball tournament. And just little things that are starting to crop up in our partnership that we can do to work and manage. And I know that we can make Shauna's job much bigger than it is right now if we work at it.
Yep. Definitely we'll be talking.
Thank you.
Question,
Yeah.
since we're here and I'm trying to pull out old brain cells that we're having trouble with. Part of that easement wasn't part of the, I mean, I wasn't involved in negotiations. I'm just trying to remember what I can about it and whatnot. But it seems to me like that road was also possibly going to benefit the property owners because they were looking at possibly developing their property too and whatnot.
It could, and they even had access to the sewer and chose to put in a septic for reasons I don't quite understand.
But I know that they were that the land the extra land they had was they were looking at maybe it being part of the development also.
Yes, and that could still be on the table.
Right.
So
But I remember that road had a dual purpose.
yes,
Yeah.
and by looping the water lines, they have fire protection and they have water available. It's the M word, water, but it's okay. The sewer is there and extended, and there was kind of some odd things that went on in that. But anyway, the sewer line goes back to the corner of the church property and
Right.
the start of the park. So that you could put a restroom out there
Right.
of some sort. I mean, you could put a really de minimis restroom or even quite frankly, a porta potty. But something that, again, there's stuff out there that's already sitting there waiting to be developed.
Yep. Bill, I appreciate you showing up today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I apologize to people how we got off our schedule here. But it was important stuff that we needed to discuss. And Jacob, when you get that housing needs analysis, it's the final meeting's coming up here real soon, right?
Yes, before you folks.
Okay.
So then we'll have the final findings. Then our consultants write off to the sunset. Then we adopt it. But at that point, because we know the zoning question is going to be controversial. You know, some people want it as low density as possible. Others want it
High as possible.
high.
Yep.
And then what allows RV parks, the residential zoning districts do. Then you're talking about mixed use.
Yep.
So it's
Everybody's
going to
got
be
an
a
idea.
fun topic.
Everybody's got an idea.
But the one consistent thing that everybody has agreed to is that the extreme northerly portion along the creek should be a public park. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
where we draw that line.
Yep, that's right.
And then what improvements, and so there's Parks Commission inclusion and stuff like that.
Yep. Okay, thank you. All right, so any other visitor comments? Come on up.
I can keep it under 3 minutes.
Okay.
My name's Roger Conca. I'm a farmer. We're out in Yankton. We specialize in mushrooms and wild edibles. And I've been doing farmers markets for over 25 years. We've been involved with the Portland Farmers Market since it started with just, I think, 12, 15 vendors along the Willamette River until now one of the biggest in the United States, one of the best. And I would love to get one going in St. Helens. I've got a target date of Saturday, June 8th. And the waterfront is just an ideal location where we would set up on the gravel bar, or whatever that's called out there. And I really have a unique idea for our farmers market where we're going to encourage the farmers to bring some, small farm antiques from their farm, kind of decorate their space, and then they could sell that to supplement their farm income. And I kind of feel that this would attract people from the metro area because old farm implements are really big as yard decor. I should know. I'm doing this St. John's flea market, and oh man, I can get $10, $15 for a rusty old chick feeder, and just wish I had more of them. So anyway, we'd like to get going Saturday, June 8th, and I don't know what's involved. That's why I'm here.
Okay. What was your name again?
My name's Roger Conca, and Springwater Farm is our farm name, and
We'll have to.
Sounds. There's been interest in the past. We just didn't have a farmer that was interested in organizing it. So I think it bears out more discussion. I don't know about that quick of a turnaround.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to set up an appointment and maybe.
I would love to set up an appointment because I can go on for an hour why I think this is such a wonderful location,
Well, it would give us a chance to get the rules and get what we need to do together and see if you're up for that.
How would you feel about coming to a work session and just having a discussion on this for like 10 minutes?
Oh, I that would be great. I wouldn't have any problem with that.
On the agenda next month or next meeting?
Yeah, next meeting. So what date is that? The
May 1st.
May 1st. May 1st work for you? It's either May 1st or May 15th, but we're getting close to that June deadline, so you're going to want.
So yeah, I would. Yeah, May 1st would work, and then if you decided in my favor, we could.
I'll tell you what. When you exit out of here, will you go to the front desk and give Becky Bean your phone number?
Oh, I will.
Okay. I don't want you to give it over the record, so.
Oh, I can do that. I'm running an ad in the Chronicle, and through June 8th, it says the world famous St. Helens Farmers Market opening June 8th. Yeah. Contact Roger for vendor information, and I listed my phone number, so everybody's going to be calling me. What's that?
No, that's what he's trying to.
That's what he's trying to do.
I have everything
right on the riverfront.
Everything for the location. So I
he's
love the
optimistic,
waterfront.
and I like this guy.
I like. Thanks. So yeah, everything but the location, and I mean I've done so many farmers markets, good ones and bad ones, and that's the best location I've ever seen. Yeah. And I like the idea of it's a kind of a destination farmers market where people can come, shop, and then they can shop in Old Town.
Well, in future development that's going to go down there is going to have a festival street, so it'll be ideally for something like that when it's developed too. So.
Yeah, and that's what we were kind of thinking that ideally, if once the farmers market was established down there, if we could have like a covered area, not only for a year-round farmers market, but then other events too, where the weather's a problem, and then. We could even do fundraising events.
Let's keep it small and simple at first, right?
Oh no! I'm with you, but I can really see it growing into a big market and one that people are going to want to come and visit. And myself, I have just wonderful products,
Yeah,
And
grow mushrooms.
we do mushrooms, and then we do wild edibles. Like now, our big crop is nettles.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to do. And well, people still buy them here, I think,
yeah.
because they don't want to
Good
pick
people.
them themselves. And
Yep.
there's lots of information just how good they are for you.
The morel mushroom should be
They're
out.
hard to pick too.
Morel mushrooms are out. I have one that I found so far on the farm, but my neighbor posted a picture of some. So they're fruity now. If around the area here, looking old wood chips, and
Yep.
and then actually, you can encourage them to grow in your yard by mulching with cardboard. It does the same thing as wood chips.
Yep. Interesting.
And it will really work.
Awesome.
Thank you, Roger.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Other visitor comments?
Good afternoon. Patrick Trapp, Port of Columbia County. Just 2 or 3 items to bring you up to date, but I'll be quick. You're blaming me already, huh? 2 or 3 very quick ones. It's just we had our port meeting last week, and we did approve some blacktop construction improvements at Multnomah Industrial Park. The entrance there, the road's getting a little
Yeah.
little crabby,
Yep.
little crabby, and that will help actually our gate also, which is having some issues with functioning all the time. So we did approve that project. 2 or 3 days, it'll be out there. When we have the exact dates, we'll let you know so that we can pass that on to the public too, so they'll be aware there'll be a slight construction zone along that old Portland Road. We also approved a sale of property to Semling Construction. They inadvertently put some concrete on our piece of property without having a good idea where the line was. When the tax man came and found out that they want to charge us, we said, well, hello. And we worked out Mr. Semling. He decided he wanted to purchase that corner, which the port agreed to since it was relatively, undevelopable property to begin with.
Yep.
And the last thing, I know Councilor Carlson has asked before about Don Chung. That's our bumper people. They're getting some, how do I put this? They're still working with some other big automotive individuals that are very interested in their patent. And so they're going to have a dialogue on that. We don't know which way it's going to go. But certainly if they sell their patent, I'm not sure what that will lead to the ultimate fruition of coming here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a good answer or update for you
Do you
on
have
that.
OMIC updates?
No, OMIC isn't really on the port property, although we try to work very closely with them in regard to what they're doing. In fact, we just the port also approved a water and sewer extension that we are working with the city of Scappoose in regard to that area on the west side of the airport, which borders along our fence on Wagner Court. So we've owned some property there. There are some private people. In fact, that's where the PCC bought property. They ultimately want to put their location. That's where Devon Air is hoping to relocate to. But we approved that. It's about a $700,000 project to put in water and sewer and remove the sewer line that was put there when Wagner Court was originally built, but because it's too small for the development that they're looking for. So rather than wait till it's charged, we worked with the city, so we'll do a 50-50 split on taking care of that now before it goes into use, because as you know, it's harder to do that once people are using the actual sewer line than before it uses.
You have to pay STC charges for that?
No, in fact, I believe they're going to use their SDC charges to cover their expenses. But barring any questions, those are the only 3 things that were happening at the port from this last meeting. But
Super.
any questions?
Hey, Patrick. So Dave Reynolds Land Surveying contacted me. Well, I think he may have contacted the county first. So the Semling property is not within city limits, but the adjacent port property is. And looking at past aerial photography, it looks like the development is 1990s. So in 1990s, we know we all had codes and standards and stuff like that. So the first question, well, the county and I talked, and who's gonna, because it's a dual jurisdiction thing, who's gonna manage the lot line adjustment application. But the question
that I posed to Dave Reynolds was, well, no, let me back up. So I asked the county, well, what do you have on record for it? And the county couldn't find anything. So it's hopefully they just mislooked. If we find that, because it's, I mean, there's a couple buildings, there's a lot of paving. If it wasn't done lawfully, I don't know.
Yeah, my understanding is from our property, it's only paving. There's no construction.
Yeah, it looks like just
There's no
yeah.
development of buildings or anything that would be of issue along those lines. Mr. Summings agreed that he's going to cover all the lot line adjustments and all those issues.
But
You're
if it,
talking about
but
the
if,
spec
but
and
the,
the code.
the paving is, that's an expansion of use. It was if it was never legal, and we're conducting a lot line adjustment for an authorized use. It's one of those. Oh God, what do we do here? So that there's kind of there's something weird going on. Hopefully, it was just the county looked in the wrong places.
I can't answer. I know this was just recently brought up to us, but again, we're happy to work with both the city and the county
Sure.
to address what needs to be done, or work with, get all parties together.
That
and
just
see what has to be
right
done.
now, that's the question is, the approvals for the development at that time.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you.
Very interesting. So,
Yes, as it always is.
Any other questions?
nope.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Patrick. Yeah, you too. Okay, other visitor comments? No? Okay. All right, so we're going to Habitat for Humanity request for waiver fees. Jennifer Anderson, that would be HFH Executive Director. Yeah, I try to, yes, it's that Mike has a hard time picking people up, so.
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm Jennifer Anderson, Executive Director for Columbia County Habitat for Humanity, and this is Bill Blank, and he's our Development Director. We're here to talk to you about our upcoming project, but first I would like to thank you for your past support. We are coming up on 20 years as an organization. We'll be celebrating June 1st, and we're very excited about that. And our success is your success. Basically, we appreciate all your support.
I think Jennifer wanted me to just make a couple of comments, even though my name isn't here. The fact is that I am Bill Blank. I'm the Community Outreach Director and Development Director. I've been with Habitat for some time. I know that an important part of our success has been the city's willingness to make ways for a waiver of SDCs possible. Thus, that frees up a substantial amount of significant funds, as a leading nonprofit. In the home building, we are serving Columbia County and making as many homes as possible. In the last few years here, you've been able to help us create 5 homes right here in St. Helens since the time that we have come in front of you. And then we're coming back again to talk to you about it. But those are in other intangible and immeasurable ways. When we built these homes, other things have happened to the community. We brought in people who've given themselves an opportunity to move their lives forward and progress in a way that maybe they didn't think was possible until they were receiving home ownership. So we appreciate the fact that the city has been very supportive of us and our cause and our mission and what we're trying to do here. And when we give them the keys to their homes, that's a special occasion. And of course, you're always extended to attend. The invitations is always extended to attend when we do that. We have a home on 7th Street, North 7th Street, that'll be completed in a few more weeks anyway. And then you're definitely invited to that. But what we're here for today is a new home development, which is a townhouse, which is the first time we've done this. But we'll provide housing for 2 more families and giving them an opportunity to have the same experience these other families have.
This is on South 8th?
That's on it, yes.
Yep.
South 8th. So we're here again before you. We're asking for your support. And Jennifer has a small slide presentation for you here. PowerPoint. Go for it, Jennifer.
Yes, I put together a few slides to show you what we were doing It's a little bit of a departure of what we've done in the past. So this is the location here on South 7th. It's a corner lot right there, corner of 7th and Plymouth. And this project is more expensive. The pre-development, the pre-construction is more expensive than our other projects for a number of reasons. As you can see on the corner lot, we have 58, it's 58 by 100 foot lot. 58 feet is on 7th Street, and there's 100 feet along Plymouth, which is a collector street. So this is the house that we purchased on the corner there for $50,000. And there's some more pictures of it. It was pretty in rough shape, just a blight on the neighborhood. A lot of complaints from the neighbors, calls to police, people breaking into it. It was abandoned for years. The kitchen was full of food still, and it had furniture and clothing and obviously people that had broken in to live there. So it's, for us, very rewarding to take this house out of that neighborhood and replace it with a couple of homes for low-income families. So here are our volunteers, and they unloaded all the things that were in this house. We did the testing and abatement process, and then on Monday, this was just Monday, we tore this house down. A great event. So what we plan to do here is to divide this lot, not exactly in half because there's a 10-foot setback on Plymouth Street and there's a 5-foot on the other side. So we'll be putting in what we're calling a duplex, which is actually a townhome, because we'll be selling each half of the lot with half of the structure. And so the parking is going to be off of South 7th there, and there'll be fenced yards. And this is the structure that we plan to build. Duplicate size, 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, a laundry room with there's exit out the side there. There's a covered porch and a little entry. Oops. And that's it. So what we're asking for is some help with the fees. In the past, you've been generous about helping us with the system development fees, and I had included some of this estimate in your packet. So the total, there's, it's kind of, we're getting a half credit because there was a structure on the property.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're dividing the lot, then it doubles the fees because there's a water meter for each side. So the total is still a little over $14,000, which is what was forgiven on our last project for the 4-bedroom home that we're currently building. The other fee that I'm asking help with is something that we paid on the last project. The sidewalk fee in lieu for our home that we're currently building was $2,488. And because this is on a corner with a, collector street on the side, 100 feet on that side, the cost of the sidewalk fee in lieu is $7,795, which is a huge fee for us to take on. So I was hoping that you could help us with that also. In the letter that I sent, I was asking for a reduction of $5,000 to bring it closer to what we had paid for our project that we're working on right now.
How much did you say that sidewalk was? 7,000.
$7,795.
Is that for both streets or just Plymouth?
That is for both.
Okay.
So it's all the way around 7th,
Yeah.
Plymouth, and back up 8th?
Well, no, it's a corner lot.
So just
So you have a lot more street frontage. You have 58 of frontage along 7th, which is a local street,
Uh-huh.
and the fee would be to the 5-foot sidewalk standard, and then Plymouth Street, because it's a collector, it's to the 6-foot sidewalk standard. And so you have a higher classified street and more linear street frontage. That's why it's a higher fee.
Jacob, isn't that this the long street? Isn't that part of our connector replanning business?
It is, yep. And in planning, we have to think of the goalpost law. The riverfront connector isn't adopted yet. That's several months out. And their building permit, I'm assuming, will be submitted before that's adopted. And so we have to look at our current plans and laws.
Because the question is the rules that apply right now, are they going to have to rip that sidewalk up to meet the new rules?
Well, as far as the fee, and that's a great question. So the fee in lieu of what our code says is we can have it be an option. We can say no, you have to build the sidewalks, or we can say we really just need the fee. In this case, because there isn't certainty in what's going to happen in Plymouth, and there's nothing along 7th, we're saying the fee is what makes sense here. Now, if this was next year and the riverfront connector plan was adopted, including the related code amendments, those fees would be higher because currently it's only assessed by the sidewalk, not the complete frontage improvements, curb, landscape strip, landscaping, cycle track, or whatever else.
Only if it is in front of your property, though, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, not in front of someone else's.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yep. So basically, your ask is for 19,000. Is what I gather.
I have a conflict, and I have to recuse myself from this conversation.
Okay. Councilor Locke?
Jacob, we probably haven't done this, but is there a way that we can, we've been trying to find STC money since eternity around here because we know we don't have enough sidewalks and other stuff around the infrastructure around town. But we do want to help you out as much as we possibly can. But what I'm sitting here looking at in especially today's market is okay, these people get into a house and they're starting to do good and everything's fine, and I'm not sure what your guys' rules are on when they can sell that house and property and whatnot as far as stuff. But so they say they live in it for 10 years and now the house is tripled in price. And so now, which is great because now they have a down payment for a new house somewhere. But on the other hand, the city is short our SDC funds that help put in all of our infrastructure. Is there a way to tap a loan on that, or a assessment on that house, that a lien that if they sold it, we get our SDC monies back or something?
So the way it's structured when we sell a house, there are 2 mortgages that equal the appraised value of the house. So the first mortgage is whatever the family can afford. We don't go over 30% of their gross income. The second mortgage is forgivable over the life of the loan. So if they live in the house for 30 years, 33 or 38 or whatever their loan is, then they're earning equity at a fantastic rate. And so for Habitat homes, there's very little turnover. In the next couple of years, we have our first Habitat homeowner who's going to pay off her mortgage, and it's been in the family. The way we've structured the last couple of houses, the first mortgage is a USDA loan. And so this has been just amazing for us. So the house that we sold on North 12th Street, when we sold that home, we got the money from USDA for that first mortgage, and that's how we bought this property. So by forgiving these, or supporting us and forgiving these fees, you're allowing us to build faster, which is actually pulling in more federal money that we turn around and use for affordable housing in the community.
You're able to leverage more of your money from the feds.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yep.
If you were to put a lien on it, that would just be, the money, whatever's left in that second mortgage would be coming back to us to use for affordable housing. So it's it would be taking away
Would really
from that.
complicate it, make it cumbersome.
You'd
You're not
essentially be
asking
Well,
for it all.
I realize it makes it harder for you guys, but
Right.
on the other hand, I mean, I don't know how many houses we've done in the last 15 years. Bill probably knows, maybe.
Is it one a year? It has been since I've been here. Yeah.
We had a gap there where we weren't doing anything. Right.
Okay.
By the time we get this project done and
Yep.
the other project done, we'll build about a dozen homes here. And include Rainier and include St. Helens and the ones that we built before in St. Helens before this.
I'm just sitting here looking at this as a community thing and whatnot,
Right.
and we talk about the homeless all the time, and we don't do anything for them, but on the other hand, every year, our community hands out whatever it is, $15,000 to help build
Right.
a house and whatnot. Which
I know in most communities, including Scappoose, where I came from, the big issue we are dealing with is affordable housing.
Mhm.
One thing that we do is bring to the plate is affordable housing.
Right.
And trying to help the communities with that.
Well, I'm not saying, I mean, it's a fantastic project and everything, and I'm totally behind it and everything, but like I say, I exactly. I mean, we as, the keepers of the community here, we're trying to find every penny we can too, just to, stay on top of things. I mean, right now, last 10 years, we've been, 30% short on employees around here. So our services have gone downhill. I don't even want to talk about the police. It's another whole thing. But anyway, I'm just trying, if nothing else, letting the community know that, hey, no, everybody is helping out with,
And we appreciate your
whatnot.
willingness to make these possible, actually, in the past, too, these ways
Yep.
possible, I know.
And I don't hear them trying to get out of the sidewalk fee completely. I mean, they didn't ask for all 7,795. They're asking for 5,000 of it to be relieved. And I get what you're saying.
So the STC funds, we have to replace that money, correct?
That's what I wanted to just
Yeah.
clarify very clear. When they're asking for a waiver of SDCs or specifically SDCs,
They're asking for our money
legally,
from another.
legally, you cannot waive SDCs.
Right.
You have to supplement it somewhere
Right.
else. In the past 12 or whatever years, that has not been done. Okay? So legally now we need to
So
start
I'm not
doing
supposed to be sitting here today?
Nope.
I can leave.
that. So
It's been nice knowing you, Keith.
if you decide
Looks like we all
Who
have to
wants
leave.
in?
We all
Raise
have
a
to
hand.
leave.
if you decide to waive SDCs in some capacity, you must make a decision of where you're going to pull that money to put into the SDC accounts, whether that be the general fund, which obviously impacts
Well,
a
you
lot
need
of
to
other
figure it
departments. No, you have to make the
No,
decision
you
because
need
I'm
to
not going to
figure it
jail
out.
over
You
this.
need to figure it out and keep
Not
us
that
legal.
anybody would go to
And
jail,
keep
but
us legal.
That is not true of the sidewalk fee, though, is it?
the sidewalk fee does not qualify as a system development charge aspect, from my understanding.
Yeah, so I think there's more flexibility there.
Yeah.
Because that's a local thing, not.
But the system development charges, we have to transfer it from somewhere into. an SDC account.
So now we have a wrench thrown and everything. So how do we need to have these people come back, or is it something that we can figure out right here on the spot? Is it something that
I guess the first question is, I'm assuming you want to waive SDCs in some capacity.
yes?
I see
I'm only speaking for myself.
I see the sidewalk fee as a separate discussion because you have a choice to waive that
Completely.
legally, whatever you want to do. But the system development charge just comes to a discussion of where do you want to pull that money from? And I can give you the general fund if you want to take it from there, and we can use contingency funds there. But that's going to take whatever amount you decide to waive, 20,000, 14,000 if it is the whole amount, or if part of it or whatever. You could also, the only other option would be the economic development fund, which are funds that are used for economic development. There is some argument there that by having a family in town, they're shopping more, they're using local shops and paying taxes and all that kind of stuff. So there is an argument either way, but it's $14,000 that you're not able to provide other services in those funds.
Well, the in lieu of sidewalk fee is 125% of what a sidewalk would be. So I don't agree with that. First and foremost, I'm going to say that right off the get-go. I never have, and I've had citizens complain about that in lieu of fee being more than a sidewalk actually cost. And how is that fair when we don't even get an improvement? It doesn't make sense to have a sidewalk here on some areas, and it's never going to happen. And some just write the check and do it with a lot of animosity.
I could argue against that.
When they write the check, you can argue all you want, Keith.
When they build the sidewalk, it's going to cost twice what that money is.
The in lieu of sidewalk fee is 125% of what a sidewalk
But
costs.
when they actually build the sidewalk, it's going to cost you double
It's
that money.
It is 125 of what, and if the money is invested wisely, Keith, Councilor Locke, it should be drawn interest.
Interest
Should be.
isn't that much.
Should be. So
Construction costs are going up way.
I do not agree with that fee. I'm just going to state that for the record. I didn't mean to get in an argument. This is a good program that you guys got going on here. How do you? I want to help them out. We have been helping them out.
Why don't we waive half the SDCs and the whole sidewalk fee?
You like that? You like that?
Recused.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay, so you got three of us that say we're gonna. I'm thinking that's what we're gonna do. Sidewalk completely waived and half the SDCs, and we'll figure out a way of getting that money, Matt.
I'm just letting you know it has to be a council decision of where you're pulling that money from. I've suggested the general fund and I've suggested the economic development fund, but I am not going to make that choice. You as a council are going to make that it doesn't decision. need to be right this It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't have to be today.
It doesn't have to be
Right.
today.
But you have to make an official decision.
Right.
So that's the best we could do just because of the funkiness of pulling that out of general fund. So the the 7,795 completely waived, and then half the SDC.
Okay.
Which isn't quite what you asked for, but it's.
We really, no, we really appreciate
Yes.
everything you do for us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, you may need a motion to waive those fees in some
Okay.
capacity.
Yeah, I think.
I move that we waive the sidewalk fees and we make up half of the SDC charges.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to waive the in lieu of sidewalk fee and half the SDC. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? None. And Councilor Carlson recused herself. Thank you. Yep. Yep. Okay. Boy, we are way behind schedule. I'm an hour behind. Discussion regarding revamping the visitor center. Simon Date.
So if it's okay, I'm excited to be here all day.
Yes.
So Lynn wants to jump ahead in the schedule, so she can
Okay.
get out, if that's okay with you guys.
Well, yeah, yep. So come on up. Sorry, Lynn.
No worries. So my name's Simon Date. I'm the executive director for the South Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. And I'm here today to present a plan and an ask for improvements to the visitor center currently up on Columbia Boulevard, up with Highway 30, and the development of a small business center within that building. Oh yeah. Perfect. Before I start, so everybody likes a comeback, right? Everybody loves a comeback. So,
Tiger.
yeah. So this weekend, Tiger Woods got his first win in 11 years and his first Masters in 14 years. And I was kind of figuring out a way to have a lead into this proposal. This kind of feels like where we're at with the chamber. We've had a bit of a revival over the last year. It's relevant because now we're seeing my business my job from a recruitment standpoint has been a little easier, in so much that people are coming to the chamber themselves instead of me going out and having to convince them to join an organization that perhaps wasn't meeting all their needs over the past 3-4 years. So we've had a 40% increase in membership over the last year. We're up to 184 members from 132 this time last year. And was culminated perhaps a good but small example of the success and the ability we have to bring the community together from a business standpoint was that we had, obviously, a lot of you were at our annual award dinner, which was actually 346 people. It was a 560% increase over the last year. So we got people who want to be a part of this community business-wise and be a part of something bigger. So I want to start with where we're at. So this is our current space. You can see obviously the Museum of Oddities and Curiosities is in the main bulk of the building. I'm down in the bottom left there. The small conference room. We've got a very small visitor center, which is basically 3 shelves with pamphlets on it. A city gift shop is in the bottom there. We've got a kitchen and then a sort of a weird room I just labeled number 2, and then currently a classroom, which I'll get more into on a little bit later. So that's kind of where we're at right now in terms of the actual physical layout of the building. So where do I start? What's wrong with how we're doing it to start with? So there's approximately 2,500 square feet up there of prime real estate in the city that's not being used. It's I don't want to just read this slide, but it is. It's the gateway to St. Helens and a significant landmark in terms of a point of reference for people to use to get down into the downtown St. Helens area. It's historically closed on weekends. We've actually just started. We're working with the event with Tina to get a few hours on a weekend, on a Saturday and Sunday, to hopefully drive some people in there. Not much success so far, but it's an ongoing process. But historically, we've been closed on weekends. We're closed most of the time during the week as well, after 5 p.m. In fact, every day after 5 p.m. And then, as you can see, Tuesdays and Thursdays. If I'm out and about visiting businesses, we don't have a visitor center. It's just me and Elks in suits sitting up there in the building. So there's also been a significant turnover in the director position, which I understand has been an issue historically. I just passed my 1-year mark. I'm like 1 year and 5 days now. So I didn't get a gold watch, but they let me do it for another year. So that's cool.
Did you just say you and Elks?
Yeah.
In suits?
Oh, yeah, that's Caspian. Yeah, he's up there. Yeah, and a gazelle in a ski suit. It's cool. It's lonely. I get lonely up there, is my point. And they're like right at the bottom there, that last bullet point. There's been a lack of relationship historically between the chambers and the cities. And I'm not just talking about St. Helens. It's been different relationship with Columbia City, Vernonia. We just took over now as well, and obviously Scappoose. Relationships that we have had hasn't always been perfect, but I feel like we're in a good spot now. Certainly with the city of St. Helens. Not that it's a bad relationship with anybody else, but it's a lot more interactive, a lot more personable here. So that's good. We've also been able to support a lot of initiatives that you guys as a council have done, and the city as a whole, the various groups. In fact, I would argue to say we've gone a little overboard in terms of we would support anybody who came to us in the last year, again, just to make sure that we're a vital part of that community. So this is where we get into the proposal, and I want to be clear. This is part visitor center, part small business hub. So I want to make sure this is an economic driver for us as well. Where we can have small businesses come in. I'm going to very quickly talk about each of these. I've got a slide. It'll take 30 seconds for each little part here. But if you kind of chop that in half, we're going to talk about that left-hand side there. So let's skip into this here. All right, so our small business incubator. This isn't what it looks like. This is ideally what it would look like. But this is these are sort of to give you an idea of what I'm thinking when we talk about small business incubator. So we have a lot of startups in the community. We don't have a good resource for incubation in this town. It's aside from the occasional coffee shop, the Starbucks is obviously a place. We've got the library is available for certain meetings, which is another fantastic space. But there's not really a what you would call a small business hub in this community, and that extends to different cities as well. Coffee shops do pop up, but again, it's not really something that I feel is conducive to building and building collaboration, like it says here, you know, and be able to have people work outside of their homes and generate ideas, make partnerships, and grow economically, and see a little bit more success business-wise. We've obviously got free Wi-Fi there. It's secure. It's very comfortable. Well, currently it's not, but it hopefully will be a very comfortable working environment. 7 days a week. I'll get more into that as well. We found a way to be open 7 days a week, which obviously is a huge plus for the visitor center side. Obviously for small businesses as well, just because some people work 8 to 5 doesn't mean everybody does. I want it to be not membership driven. So yes, we would love to have members of the membership of the chamber, and hopefully that's something that they see value in. However, the whole rising tide lifts all boats. You know, it's not my job to just help just members. We got to drive business, and obviously that's part of the council and the city's job as well, is to drive all local business. It will be a good opportunity for us to have some exposure to the offerings, and again give a space where people can present what they do, knock ideas off of each other, have a meeting space that isn't reliant on the opening and closing hours of different businesses. Business center. Again, there are businesses in town where you can come in and you can make. There's certainly copier centers and things like that, but we wanted a place where you could actually go in and utilize some. Whoa, that's not even the right slide. I double clicked it. I wonder what all the blank looks are for. So this is about being able to utilize some of the finishing services. We've struck up a fantastic deal with Kyocera, who are looking to, if this proposal goes through, to let us get into finishing and large-scale business presentation materials, as whether it be for presentations like this or just little things that you have to do for meetings or whatever. If owning a printer, having ink and things like that, they're little problems in the big scheme of things. To sort of places like this, you just go buy more ink, but you've got to print out 500 pages of something. That's going to add up. So we struck a deal with, like I said, with Kyocera, who are going to help us out in that respect. So we will have this available free for very basic printing, and then we have the ability to generate some revenue out of it with a code-based system. You punch in your code, and we can bill you separately.
I think that's very cool. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity for you. I mean, it's a service that you're offering, and you benefit a little bit, and it's still going to be way below cost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, currently, to give you an idea, the printer we have in there, it's 24 cents a copy that we make. This gets it down to 0.08 a copy. So just if we just used it, we would save money.
Yep.
Printer ink is not cheap. The visitor center, again, this is a sample picture, but it showcases Columbia County tourism, right? It's, so much we focus on the tourism is about events, and, the council and Tina's done a fantastic job with the events that we've got currently going, but that's not just what, tourism is. There's more to it than that. People stopping in. We're seeing a lot of foot traffic now in the visitor center. And currently it's pamphlets, it's little things here and there, but we do a lot of regional marketing for Bend, Eastern Oregon, and stuff like that. And I want to move away from that and really promote what we're doing here in St. Helens, in Scappoose, Vernonia, and really, get the local attractions and, where to eat. It's just simple questions that I get asked every day. Where can I go eat? What is there to do if I've got kids and it's not a school day? Things like that. What's happening down at the waterfront? Obviously, a big part of that will be to promote, the city events and other such things. But we want to, like it says there, we want to host a local library of tourist attractions. We're also one of the first 3 buildings to be certified as bike friendly, which is a big plus to bikers. But it is a big, Oregon's a big biking community, so that's important for us as well. Gift shop. So ideally, we want to. So Tina has her gift shop. You remember in the initial slide, it's kind of tucked away in there, and we're charging way too much for it to rent up there. So we spoke. Actually, Tina and I spoke a couple of days ago. So the board decided to slash the rent by 77%. To move it out onto the floor. And again, this is all up for, we haven't finalized the deal yet, but where we can get a gift shop out where we're not just selling Halloween Town stuff, and which is pretty much what the gift shop is right now, we can sell gift items from the community. So it's not just about an event. It's about the entire experience here in Columbia County. Obviously, it adds to the brand. Beyond the county, we can hit other things as well. Halloween Town, 4th of July, Wings and Wheels, those sorts of things. And so we've. This is something we want to get out on the floor instead of having it currently open, I believe, 6 hours a week. It's on Saturday and Sunday, 8 hours, 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday, and that's it. And I don't believe, I haven't seen the sales numbers yet, but I don't think it's doing very well, which is not surprising because it's tucked away and nobody knows it's there. So that's a problem. We want to get it out, get it in front of people. On a side note, the gift shop, so the museum, we made a proposal that we would keep the museum up there in storage, or tucked away out of that big main room. And then in September and October, for Halloween Town, when it is relevant, or when it's certainly a lot more visible, we would dedicate that. We have a big back room in the back, probably about the size of this room, where we would allow it to stay up there rent-free, just like it is. There's no charge for the museum, so it's obviously saving some money there. And we would make that back room the museum of oddities and curiosities. So that's still an option. Again, we're still working out the details on that. Coffee bar. So I'm actually really excited about this. We're partnering with a high school group. So there's a group of older students, and when they graduate, younger adults who come back and help. It's a group of special needs kids who run a coffee bar in the high school. It's just a coffee cart. It's, I don't know, 3/4 the size of this table. Fantastic job they do running it. I have met with them. They have agreed to run the same thing, they have 2 of them. So they would duplicate what they're doing in the high school in the visitor center. So the thing I'm most excited about, these are special needs kids, so it promotes inclusion, right? This is, you hear a lot about this stuff, about, the marginalization of stuff. I have an autistic daughter, so I'm very sensitive to this sort of stuff. But they get to interact with the public as well. So you can make the argument it's harder dealing with high school kids on a daily basis, but I'm sure the public will, add that new wave of, work experience and their experience within there. All proceeds, we're not interested in making money off the coffee bar. This would go back into that program so that they could continue to develop kids. I don't know how much money they're making on this, certainly in the high school, but I can imagine it's a lot. So we want to make sure that this is something that they're able to do and be passionate about in our building. The pop-up shop initiative. So, and I've put Cake House in parentheses there. That would be the first one. So the Cake House was one of the runners-up in the recent award for a $25,000 loan. Aaron Piao runs it. And the idea is it's Aaron first, but the idea would be that we would promote local business to have that pop-up shop idea. So, you would come in, and I mean, you guys know what a pop-up shop. I don't obviously need to describe that, but we give the thing right at the bottom there. It's an initiative where local business can display what they do, show what they do, and there's almost zero risk. It's not like they have to rent a space, and pay to get out there. It's a free space. Come and do what you do. Show the community what you do, and maybe, and this is obviously the hope with Aaron and whoever else joins in. This will be somewhere where they can use as a leapfrog into getting a brick and mortar place or getting a space of their own. The idea is we don't want them in a long time because they are successful enough to get out. So that's a big deal. We need them to have an opportunity to take a chance on these sorts of things. The QR room, this is my inner nerd. So that we've got three big walls in there that we can actually put maps of the various cities, various locations, waterfronts, whatever it may be. And it's a unique way. I'm not sure if you're familiar. I don't want to get too nerdy on it. But the little code at the bottom there, that grid-looking thing, anyone with a smartphone just points the camera at it. It pulls up a website, pulls up information that the merchant controls. We just provide the QR code to them. So you can have a map laid out just like it is. If you want to go to, what do we got here? The Woodland Cottage Boutique. You just click there. It'll give you directions about it. Maybe that day or that week it's an offer that they have. It's a discount for dinner. It's, whatever it may be. It's literally merchant controlled. So without having to change out, so it's not like every time they go, I've got to put a new QR code on there. We would like to make this a little bit a little bit more spaced out. So again, this is something that's very interactive. Stuff can come up, come down. If businesses unfortunately close or if they get added, brand new business, bam, slap a QR code up there, you're good to go. So that's something, again, very, very excited. And, you know, it's just, again, a little cool little feature. We could do it by pamphlets, but this also allows us to get rid of the pamphlets. You know, we do have people coming in. It's like the people who get phone books. It's, you know, they're, I don't want to say they're a dying breed, in case any of you read phone books. But the font's small enough, if you're old enough, you can't read the font anyway. So, yeah, so don't stress about it. We'll get this QR code. We'll get this. Everybody's got smartphone technology, so it's fantastic. It's built into all the smartphones. We've done a little bit. There's a smaller font here, just because of what it is. We've already got a lot of people buying into this. So this is in terms of support. And the money side I'll get into. Obviously the Cake House and the Coffee Bar, Columbia Arts Guild have agreed to provide artwork, so we're highlighting local artists in the area. Finish Line Graphics are going to do all of our exterior signage for us. Double Deconstruction we'll put in the laptop bars. The school districts have already provided some furnishings for the back room. I don't want to say they're cast off items, but they're older, certainly older for that back classroom area. The WorkSource Oregon and ResCare, I'm really excited about. So they have state and federal grants where they can provide 100 hours per person of employee, of an employee. So if you've got, if the 4 of you are employees, it's like Oprah, you get 100 hours. Everybody gets 100 hours, and then you can use that 100 hours to come and work at our building. As maybe it's visitors, maybe you're just the visitor center liaison for that day. Maybe there's an actual task we can have you doing there. So again, we're supporting that local person to come in and use work experience as a leapfrog into something else. It's something to put on their resume. Hey, I worked at the visitor center all summer, and these can be any kids from 16 to 24 years old. And they typically have, to get into that grant program, they have to have a certain need. Whether it be an economic need, maybe they don't have, the ability to get into college. Maybe they come from a single-parent family. There's various levels, but yeah, exactly. So the ResCare takes care of everything, payroll, taxes, the whole shebang.
And they're like Oprah.
They're kind of like Oprah. It'd be great if we had Oprah here.
You gotta.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, that'd be good. We've applied for a Columbia River PUD economic grant. The National Business Furniture Group, I spoke with Clay. They were the group that did all the stuff for the rec center. So we tapped into some of the relationship there. We have applied to the Walmart Foundation regarding the local store here. So we don't know where that's gonna pan out. Inroads Credit Union has expressed interest in sponsoring the back room to turn it into an actual learning center where we have real furniture that doesn't move, and chairs that are safe to sit on. That would be cool. And then obviously the cities. I'm very aware that the visitor center portion is a county initiative. I think it's fair to say that St. Helens perhaps takes the lion's share of the tourism in terms of the events, and that's part of the the great job you guys are doing here. But in terms
Thank
of
you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it is. It's cool. It is really cool. And I live in Scappoose. But we got wings and wheels. So, why are you laughing? I'm serious. Awkward. All right. Yeah. So I mean, but in terms of an economic driver and the building itself, that's why I'm here. It's a St. Helens. This is a St. Helens economic driver. I hope. My goal is to get people to come from Scappoose, to come and be in here and spend their money in the city. But it's also, it is a countywide visitor center, the tourism there. And then obviously the Kyocera document, they've hooked us up with their nonprofit rate and some stuff there. The last 3 points there, it's, there is, as I said earlier, there is a lack of accessible, free meeting space in here. The library is a fantastic option. There are a few other locations, but ours will be open 7 days a week. Like it says there, it's another percentage, right? But it's significant. It's 142% increase over what we're currently guaranteeing, and that's through that WorkSource and ResCare deal. We've got 184 business members. You know, we hear this a lot. There isn't a space to work in, and so tourism does need a space. The visitor center, the small business side, it's something that small businesses are passionate about, and you know, so that's one of the reasons I'm here. All right, let's get into the ask. All right, so here's the numbers. So these are projections we've had through different people, and I can certainly provide you with detail. You know, we've got the furniture, the map layout with the QR codes I talked about. We have a chimney in there that we would wrap, and so, you know, it's obviously a four-sided chimney. And again, we're getting into the details here, but it's, you know, places to eat, places to stay, places to visit, things to do, you know, on different sides, and they can be changed out, you know, as needed. The laptop bar just around the windows. The flooring, the carpet is pretty gnarly in there. So this is kind of a cheaper laminate version that we would get in there. Interior paint could probably do with some of that. The signage, so I didn't make a real big note of this. It's currently now, it's just says Chamber of Commerce. I feel like, and I think, I know our board feels that it should be visitor center. It's the visitor center first. Chamber of Commerce is obviously a part of that, but you know, with what we're trying to do here and having this small business center.
Is it just me, or does that sign seem like it blends with the building very well, though, too?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
the parts that
not
aren't peeled off.
Yeah.
It blends. It blends very well. It's a horrible sign. Yeah, but I can't take it down. Then this is there are fees associated with getting the business center up and running. The coffee carts, and again, and these are smaller dollar amounts here, but I wanted to be transparent about the whole thing. You know, we do need a little work on the cart that they're providing, and then the new lock system. So we have we would have access 24/7. We'd staff it for 7 days a week. That's, again, figuring out the details, but let's say it's 9 to 9. If somebody wanted to come in at 3 o'clock in the morning for whatever reason, members would have access at that point. So we would be able to control who's coming in and doing that. And this is where I'm at. I need help creating this space. And that's...
When you say members, you mean board members, not
No, chamber members.
Chamber members?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, for those who do come in, and board members.
He got this cool lock where somebody can call and say, I'm at the door, and he can put a thing in his phone and the door will unlock.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, like, he
Super
can authorize
nerdy.
somebody by their phone. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, this is not a test, is it? This is not, yeah. If you call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's not going to end well.
It's something the chamber and
I'm
old
finding my
buildings
way.
struggle with, is having access with where are the keys, who has the keys, and once you give somebody a key, how do you know they're getting in? And it's like, it's just technology allows more access.
So that's it. It just says it's you know, I just unlocked it and now I just relocked it again, so the whole building's now secure. And it just, again, gives us a little bit more control over coming and going of people there. You know, we've tried to be. Well, I feel like we have been good partners. You know, I took a lot of time putting this together. We've got one more little slide, but it's something, and I just said it, I need help creating this space from the city. This is not something that we are capable financially of doing right now as a chamber. You can see all of this. Nothing goes to me. Nothing goes to, you know, the staff. We don't have any staff. So it's something that I really need help with. And then, you know, as we approach, the obvious question is, well, have you asked Scappoose? Have you asked Vernonia, Columbia City? No, I haven't. But I will be, and I'll be asking for things like, you see it down at the bottom, the workstations, the leadership programs, the, you know, different, when the grant money runs out from WorkSource, you know, can we get to the point where we can hire a membership manager, you know, those sorts of items. And there are little kind of cool things, those big sort of plexi visitor center things you see, you know, where they can show the state, and maybe it's a little bit interactive. Again, we're getting into the weeds a little bit here, but there is a need for more. This is a start. And then my last.
Oh, that was the last.
No, it's not. There it is. Woo. I could read this. You're certainly capable of reading it. We've secured funding from WorkSource Oregon, as I said, some community members and sponsors. I don't want to say 100% secured, but I'm I'm confident with that second one up. The chamber funds obviously are extremely limited, but we can help a little bit. So then it falls back onto perhaps some of the other keepers of the programs that can help drive economic advancement, and the visitor center side. We need a home. I did for my first year here, I just wanted to make the chamber maybe relevant and liked. That was kind of my two goals. And I feel like we've achieved that. Now I'm sitting up there on prime real estate and it's just a blank shell when it could be used for so much more. And that's where I'm at. And so that's my, I think that is the last one.
Once upon a time, that was a railroad station.
Yeah.
And in the back end of that, once upon a time, was their electronic control for communication. Is it still there?
Yeah.
Do they pay rent?
You're talking about the little box in the back with a little rabbit?
There's some place where they've got a bunch of electronic equipment.
They own the property, Steve.
Yeah, it's in the building.
No, they own the property.
They own the property.
Yes.
There is a little thing that controls the railroad tracks, which I've been told.
No, there's also communication links. Okay, so it's railroad property that they're letting us use.
We're leasing the building, yeah.
Okay, that was the real question was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one comment, not
Sure.
to back you up on your proposal, is having been affiliated with the chamber since 2002, I just, things kind of went away with big industry, and I just watched at your banquet. We saw people in that room we've never seen before.
Yeah.
I've never seen in 15 years of having a business in this town, I've never seen before, and you brought people to the table through your outreach that have not been part of this community. And school board member Bill Amos touched on it about partnerships, and the school districts, all the school districts have come to the table more than they ever have before.
Yeah.
I think that that's a great testimony to your ability to connect them through the other job you have, parent, coach,
Right.
and just, a good volunteer. So I think there is a lot of people on the team. It's not just you.
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah.
that's positive.
Well, and that's, and part of the relationship we have with you guys now through a lot of it, admittedly through Tina, specifically. But as you as a council has been, I feel, positive. It's been, hopefully we've mended the past and we can just stop talking about it, which has been, an ongoing thing with lots of organizations. And I know there has been hesitancy in the past to support perhaps different organizations that have said, hey, we need money for this. We need money for this. So my ask is no different. We need money for this.
Right. But we have in the past with CCEC, with
Yeah.
Main Street, and I don't know how long it's been since we've given money to either one of those programs. It's been 3 years since we've given anything to Main Street, isn't it? Do you remember? Not since you've been
I'm
here.
only 2.5 years into this.
I don't think we've given it since you've been here.
2 years, 4 months.
When was the last rare person?
Seems like it's been 2 years. That was Jasmine. And time does kind of fly, but I would guess about 2 years. I think it's been 2 rare cycles that have been like, oh, okay, yeah, we don't have to worry
So
about
2
it.
years.
Yeah, Jasmine was at the tail end of
Okay.
me starting.
All right. And then did we stop giving the annual contribution to CCEC? I know we talked about not.
No, we haven't.
We
No.
don't give it to them, or we do?
We haven't this year.
This is the first year.
Well,
That
the
we
year's
have.
not over yet. So.
Okay, I wasn't sure where our year is the July, June thing. Other people's year go January to December, so
sure,
that's
sure.
where the confusion is. So I'm just, it's a valid proposal, given that we have in the past contributed to some kind of small business.
Well, I definitely like all the ideas. I like how it's community-based orientated. It is the South Chamber. It does serve the whole county, like he said, but it's fortunate that it does sit here in St. Helens. Fortunate for us, which we are 1/4 of Columbia County. I mean, I hate to always say that, but St. Helens is, population-wise,
Sure.
1/4 of Columbia County, period, point blank. So we have a lot of businesses, and I like the opportunity for new entrepreneurs to be able to utilize the space, I like that the coffee cart could,
Yeah.
you're integrating that. That's huge
Yeah,
right
I love
there,
that.
in my opinion.
Having the building not be dark
Yep.
so much of the time would be huge.
And I do like that you have worked really hard. I just don't know what does everybody feel comfortable with.
You gonna have a soundproof booth so those counselors can come up there?
Oh, I thought you were being serious. We actually did. If we move the gift shop out, that's one of the ideas we talked, so people could do podcasting in there. Yeah.
Oh, I thought so people could yell at each other in there.
And I like the chamber chat too. I don't know if you've done it lately.
You guys have got to get on it.
Yeah.
And we do have the Commerce Advocate of the Year in the room as well. So, I mean, we want to advocate for commerce.
I was just, I'm all sensitive to having the partnerships. And granted, it is on our real estate, so to speak, being on our gateway, being on our main street. So it kind of gives, and we're disproportionately a large percentage of the county. Yeah. So I feel like our burden to help out is a little bit greater than, say, Vernonia or than Columbia City. So I think that to support them in part and, give our portion.
So if this conversation is how or from which fund,
Well, just take it out.
Economic development.
Yeah,
We gotta
we'll
figure out how much money for.
Yeah.
we'll just take it out of SDC charges.
yes, it's a great idea.
I'm gonna move that we take $10,000 out of economic development and pass it on to the chamber, because I think he's light on these dollar amounts there. He's gonna need more than he thinks he needs, and I want it to be nice anyway. So
That's the number I was thinking too.
there's a motion on
Discussion?
I will second that.
Discussion? Okay.
I just wanted to add, that's a one-time proposal. Some of the conversations we've had offline are around the business license and other kind of unsustainable kinds of revenues that might be able to direct to the chamber.
Yeah.
And at one point we were talking about either on top of the business license or within the business license, having a portion of that go to the chamber as some kind of a support.
Yes.
And,
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because I really like that idea of them being self-sustaining, not on membership.
Yes, I like
And
that.
that's
too.
just a bonus.
No, absolutely.
Yes. And it should be an attraction that really brings that extra bonus and that money you can do more with.
Sure.
No, I'm glad you're revisiting that. I brought that idea to the table years ago and worked diligently to try to persuade the chamber to lower their initial costs and encourage every business in the community to belong. It could be for $1 or $2 or whatever. And in a sense that the city would encourage that because we'd have 100% commercial belonging to the chamber.
Yeah.
And along with that additional fee possibly to the city would pay for their membership. And I just see that as a win-win for everything, for everyone in our community.
Yeah, as a whole, our membership changed back in December, and we lowered the entry point for people to join.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor,
I
and it's been seconded to give the chamber $10,000 to do the upgrades, and you'll give us a report, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hearing none.
I don't know enough about the project.
Oh, you're.
I abstain. I don't know enough about the whole system. I got a little snippet of it today. I've been involved at other times with the chamber, and there's just a lot of things I would have to cogitate in my head before I'd make a decision. We somehow have to support it. I'm not sure how. That's my real problem.
Okay.
And Simon, there is some easy ways to handle that existing sign and change the message. We can talk offline.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm behind schedule and I gotta
Yeah.
keep this thing moving. I'm way behind, actually. Sorry.
No, thank you very
apologize.
much.
All right, thank you, Simon.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, presentation of Little Free Library for Campbell Park donated by Thomas Hanlon. Yep. He's not here?
He's not here.
Uh-huh.
It's something that went to the Arts and Cultural Commission. I told her that his wife, he isn't able to be here for medical reasons. His wife was out of town. It went to the Arts and Cultural Commission. It's part of your packet. I told her that the council would see
review
it
it,
in
yeah.
their packet and probably would not need to have him be here. So I'm gonna pull it up here for you. This is what the little library looks like. There was approval by the Arts and Cultural Commission. It's actually something that is not necessarily considered art. Margaret might be able to speak a little bit on this. It's more of a, Margaret, can you?
We
Okay,
actually had a review of this already. Margaret had informed us.
Well,
of
yeah, we
how it
talked
was.
about using
Yeah.
the donated
Yes, yep.
property form instead of having a formal art commission public hearing.
Yep.
The biggest concern I had about this particular project was whether or not he had permission to use copyrighted images, and he did seek permission from the Seuss organization. I can't recall what their official name was, and it turns out that they have a partnership with Little Free Libraries, and so they were really
Perfect.
excited to
Yeah.
see this in use, and they did give the permission. I didn't want the city to have any liability by accepting something that didn't have those permissions, but he sought that from them, and so that's taken care of.
I had a question for you about the Little Free Libraries. Who maintains them? I see them other places that they're not as maintained as one would think. And so I didn't know if that falls on your staff or that falls on the person donated it or the neighbors.
It kind of depends on the library itself. When a library is installed, there is some understanding about who is going to keep an eye on it. I mean, a private citizen could put one in their front yard, and the idea is you hope that there'll be sustainable, that it's kind of a, leave one, take one sort of environment. But there are places where the libraries are, for instance, there's one at the food bank, and a lot of the Friends of the Library at St. Helens, the Friends of the Library at Columbia City, and even the staff at the food bank make sure there are plenty of books in there. If somebody, so each of these have different sponsors. Our Friends of the Library currently have 2 that they maintain, and Lynn's here to propose a 3rd. The ones that this one that Thomas is proposing in the park, I assume it's would be the responsibility of his responsibility as a private citizen to.
It's actually.
So I would like to go ahead and bring Lynn up here because we're kind of talking about this right now, and I'm going to knock 2 birds out with one stone. And I see an opportunity to save myself about 10 minutes because it's.
Can I just interrupt for a minute? His actually is going to be
Walnut, or at the Walnut.
is at Walnut
Campbell.
Tree Park, but it is going to be maintained by the Arts and Cultural Commission,
And it has been approved, so.
and it had been approved by the
So,
Parks Commission,
yep.
as well as Lynn's.
And we have permission from Dr. Seuss, so it's part of free, so we got all that covered. I think we're good with that, right? But we're on to this discussion about little libraries. I thought this would be an opportune time to have you come up and give your presentation.
Right, and again, my name is Lynn Pettit,
Yep.
and this is Mary Wojcik, who is the president of the Friends of the St. Helens Library. And I want to make a correction. We're not called the Little Free Library.
Okay.
That's a registered trademark that Arts and Cultural Commission, the O'Hanlons, are using. And that's got a world map. There's a fee, I think, that you pay annually. So we're different from that. We've been doing this for about 6 years. And so this would be our 3rd library. We have one down in the marina behind the courthouse, and we have one at the food bank. and I've given you pictures in the packet so that you could see that. And I noted to her that I said, when I took those pictures, I think we need to do some upkeep on that one in particular. But ours is very, very plain. It's first I want to say that I did bring this before the Parks and Trails Commission, and that was approved. And of course, now you have it in the packet to be, it's referred, and so we're hoping you'll approve that as soon as possible, and we'll get started. But ours will be in Walnut Tree Park. And I believe that they want to put one in
Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell.
Yep.
So that would be the difference. But so ours is just, I put in here a miniature library when I submitted this proposal, but we call it the Little Library of Friends of the Library, St. Helens. So, and we do all the upkeep. We install it. It's going to be on a 4x4 post. It's going to be very simple, as you can see, with some paint and some kind of maybe asphalt shingles or some other kind of roofing. I put in the form that I submitted on donated items that it would be, we'd like the city to go ahead and put that in footings in concrete. That will make it really stable. But if necessary, we can go ahead and do that ourselves. We've got volunteers that do the upkeep. Just like I said, they make the library. We donate the books, and we encourage people to take a book and put a book back. So, and it's on in a very good neighborhood, you know, that has a lot of children. It's low to middle income housing. And there's always the McBride School is just up the street, and it's on Columbia and Right Way, and you're familiar with it.
It's a big, beautiful walnut tree, too.
Yes, it is.
Huge, massive.
And also I'm a Kiwanian, and my husband helps to mow the lawn there and upkeep, you know, do the upkeep on that. So, yeah. So.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's already
it's
been
awesome.
approved. I think that you've done that. Only thing I would say is if you could have somebody, I think, dig that in the 4x4, probably, you know, I mean, we got a lot of big projects going on. It'd be just nice if somebody could take a couple bags of concrete. And,
Yeah, we don't get
Yeah.
summer help for outside stuff for a while yet, so we're a little slim on the staff. So if you're wanting it to be put up sooner than later, you probably need to get your volunteers.
Yep.
That'd be great. Now, should I work with the city on where the placement is, so
Sure.
that you know? And
Neil's not here. He actually has some family issues, but
Is it Dave?
Dave would be the new
Is
guy.
it Dave the contact person right now, the interim contact person?
Yes.
Okay. And so what I'm proposing is to put it on that southwest corner, so it's not, you know, there's a bench in front of it, and then there's a wall.
And check with the Kiwanis, too. Make sure that it's not in the way of them mowing.
Her husband.
I know.
Yeah. That's what I'm planning. It's going to be right by the sidewalk there, so that the kids can have easy access, won't have to go into wet grass. I mean, it'd be very convenient.
Yeah,
Super.
I think you'll have a very. It's not rocket science, and it sounds like you got it taken care of. So.
Do you have any other questions, or?
Official approval is on for tonight's agenda.
Okay.
Now, do you take how would anybody could just come to the library and, like, if they saw tattered books in there, or like, say somebody has a first grader and now they're in third grade, so they don't need their beautiful first grade books, and they want to put some of those books in there, they would just come up and go, these are yucky, put some new ones in there.
They could do that. And we'll check on that all the time.
Super. I just, because I know as having high schoolers, they age out of their books, and you don't want to throw books away, and you want to have the books to be read as much as possible.
And we want books in there for all ages as well as the adults. I know often when we're weeding at the park or anything, people run across the street and say, we're so happy you're doing this, and we just love the park, and they use it quite a bit.
Awesome. Super.
Well, and you know, when you read a book, what do you do with it? I mean, a lot of people have books, you know, and you don't throw
Gotta
away
share 'em.
books. You just, you know, you have to recycle them. So it's a great opportunity for a lot of people.
Great project.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your appointment to the Parks Committee.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. We're going to do a communications. Is Crystal? There she is. I was communicating, tell her to Crystal here. So we're getting communications third quarter report. Hi.
So this is the third quarter communications report. It covers January to March of 2019.
That's third quarter or first quarter?
Third quarter. So this is fiscal year. So we're in third quarter.
Oh, okay. That's
Technically
the
now we're in
calendar
fourth
thing.
quarter, but yeah. So last time in my report, I did a comparison, which is continued in this report, of the amount of releases and posts and radio spots that we've been doing over the last 4 years compared to the current fiscal year. You can see highlighted in red. And again, I want to remind you, these are stats that only go through the third quarter. So we're still missing 3 months worth of product from those 18-19 numbers, but we are already at 91% above average for the last 4 years in the number of press releases that we've sent out. We're at 64 and 81% above what we average normally for Facebook and Twitter posts. We're right average with the e-newsletter. I can't imagine that that's ever going to be, since it's typically a monthly thing that we do, I can't imagine we'll ever be more than average.
Yeah.
Radio spots look about average compared to last year, which actually indicates that we're above average for this year, because this year, for the majority of the fiscal year, Kohai has been down with their antenna issues. So we're making up lost time now. I anticipate we will actually be at 6 or more radio spots by the end of the year, which is the same amount that we did last year, and they were up all year long last year. And then we only have one Instagram account, which is our Spirit of Halloween Town account. So that, just depending on advertising needs, will go up and down.
Good job at stepping it up. I noticed a lot of posts frequently, just clicking on social media. You've been doing a wonderful job for the city.
Thank you.
To state that, continue on with your report.
So we continue to add product. Kathy, can you, or should I do that? Thanks. We continue to add the types of ways that we try to push information out to the public. So I've kind of restructured and added more categories to our departments versus category time allocations, so that you can see we have new video software. So we've been doing more videos for departments when they have video needs, which takes quite a bit of time of editing when there's a video request. As well as for the website, most departments are responsible for upkeeping their own website and adding info as needed. But we have our own communications page that we're adding info to. I'm working with the police department when they need new pages added, working with the library on a couple projects to add stuff to their page, as well as adding info to our calendar of events when I have community partners that send us info that I need to advertise, but I have to link to our webpage. So I kind of want to go a little more in-depth than normal this year into the activity highlights for the last quarter, just because I feel like I don't do this frequently enough for you guys. And I think there's sometimes a perception that when we send out a press release or we advertise for an event, that it's a very easy one-time post it on Facebook and it takes 2 minutes and we're done with it. But it actually sometimes requires quite a bit of back work and hours and multi-platforms that we put this info out on. So we're working on a print newsletter that's going to be an insert into utility bills in addition to the monthly digital e-newsletter. I've had 2 in-person meetings with the company that we currently work with, which is the utility billing software. We had to actually get a new module in our software system to be able to move forward with that, which has now been implemented at no cost to us. So thanks to the software company for that. Did some training on it, and I've been talking to John and Matt about some budgeting and pricing for pushing that out as an insert. Looking at, I think, quarterly right now, quarterly insert or every other month insert in utility bills. And it'll probably be something smaller, definitely smaller than what the Gazette was, just based on pricing. We have implemented since October monthly first Thursday meetings at the police department. They're a new safety topic each month that involves writing a press release, sometimes partnering with agencies that we're working with. In the last quarter, we had one with the school district that was on what police do in an emergency situation with the schools and what the school's process is in that. So we coordinated the press release with the school district. We had somebody from the school district at the meeting along with one of our own officers to talk about what we do. We push it out on social media. It involves, we hold all these at the library, so it also involves setup at the library for the meeting, as well as closing time because it's after library hours, so there aren't any library staff there to shut down the building. For the library, so they have their own social media accounts now, Facebook and Twitter. And business pages obviously work a lot differently on social media than a private page does, a personal page, particularly Facebook. The way metrics work on between businesses and personal pages, they just need to be run differently. So I am having monthly meetings with Gretchen, who is our youth librarian over at the library, and we are working to coordinate monthly schedules for what we want to highlight on the library's pages so that we have a continual stream of content that we're working on that's thought out well and that balances events that we're promoting at the library, as well as a big one is the resources that we want to get that info out to people. The library has a lot of resources that we have to continually remind people that are available. That, I mean, they have free computers. So if you don't have a free computer, you can go to the library and use one of their computers. If you need to print anything, they have print services. We have a bunch of databases that are available for people to do research. They had tax season info that was available on their website, as well as forms that were available inside the library. Cultural passes where you can get free or discounted admission to a lot of Portland metro area cultural events, as well as they're doing a weekly Feature Friday with staff to highlight books that they recommend and highlighting new collections that we have at the library. I also met with Shauna and Ryan from the REC program, and we had a communications meeting about what their needs are in moving forward with kind of creating a plan for more sustainable communications to get the word out. So we brainstormed things like group emails for certain things, like if you want info just on youth events, we can create a database of people that we can email out just with upcoming events for youth programs. Maybe a newsletter that's specific to the REC program with event info, as well as working with Ryan to create a monthly calendar request for what kind of events that they need advertised ahead of time for social media. Because right now we're having to coordinate that in with the city's main page. And so that's a balancing act of what do we post and what do we not post day to day, because we can't make more than a couple posts a day before we start to lose exposure to the public, just based on the metrics that Facebook uses. The library held a bookmark competition, which is actually going on right now through the end of next week. So they launched that a couple months ago and asked kids from birth to 18 to submit bookmark designs that are going to be used in our summer library program. So there are 3 categories. One winner from each category will have their bookmark reproduced and sent out to the community and all of the resources that go out for summer library program. We are actually, the voting is up right now, so you can go to the library and vote in person on that. And we also have it pinned to the top of the library's Facebook page, and it's on Twitter. So I'd encourage everybody to go vote on that right now. And it closes the end of next week. We've done a lot this last quarter to push out some community partnership info. I know the council has been wanting to see a lot more focus on the city's collaboration and emphasis on working with other agencies in the area. So done a lot of work with the school district to help promote their events, as well as when they have events where, like, our police were at a Read for the Record Day, I think. So Stacy over at the school district will send me those pictures that we can use on our end as well. So we pushed out info on the grand opening for the CCEC building, which happened last quarter. Shared warming center information. We had a lot of cold days that hit later in the season this year. So when the warming center was open, we tried to share that info. The chamber just had their banquet, which I heard Simon talk about. So we did a couple of advertisements on our pages to help promote the voting for that, as well as pushing out information. In February, we had that terrible flooding and some of our roads closed. So pushing out info about road closures on Gable Road and the repairs that were going on with that. And then shared some info on some community meetings that Columbia County Emergency Management was having for the community. The St. Helens and Scappoose libraries had a grant that they received to combine their catalogs and offer more resources to the community. St. Helens, I believe the grant was awarded to Scappoose. Yes. Yeah. But we kind of took the lead on the promotional material side of things for that, just because I'm obviously somebody who's in-house that's dedicated to that. Most of the agencies around here, cities, libraries, police departments don't have a dedicated person for that. So we tend to take the lead on a lot of this program promotion stuff. So we had some in-person meetings with the Scappoose Library Director and created a couple of press releases that went out on the grant. We did some paid advertising for this grant program on social media, as well as published ads in both newspapers that were there were some back and forth drafts that happened on that before Scappoose worked on their end for the spotlight, and we got ours in the Chronicle. The annual report for the police department for 2018 also came out last quarter. It was revamped a little bit. Tia, who is a new hire over there, as well as the chief and Lieutenant Hogue, and I worked to get new content in there, as well as photos. If you haven't looked at that yet, it's all the reports for the last several years are available on the police department's website. We had another Cocoa with a Cop event at Burgerville. It was pretty well attended by kids this last time. It happened around Valentine's Day, and Burgerville also hosted a cookie decorating party. So we had several decent size waves of kids come through with their parents.
It's funny that the manhole happens to be by Burgerville.
It is, yeah. I did not notice that. So you can see one of our school resource officers there interacting with some of the kids that showed up at that event. Jenny takes a lot of the lead on doing some of the project management with the planning and community development grants that we have going on right now. So we had a bunch of press releases and advertising that went out about our Brownsfield assessment program, which was requesting people who own property who have Brownsfields that would like to do assessment work on it to contact us and come to the meetings so that they could receive grant funding for that or help assistance with it. As well as we are now about to have our 4th housing needs analysis meeting coming up. So we've had 4 rounds of advertising for that. And then we had a bunch of weather-related stuff that happened this last quarter. We had that cold weather snap, so we had a bunch of winter warnings that we shared, the warming shelter information, as well as safety info, which I generally try to pull pre-crafted messaging for that. FEMA has a lot of resources that are luckily available for some of the pre-crafted safety information that can go out, but for the February flooding, we have to kind of personalize it. So we push out info about where our sandbagging locations are at, what numbers to call if they see flooding or down trees, what happens if it's after hours versus when we have staffing available, as well as sharing road closure updates since we obviously had a lot of flooding and damage that happened in February.
Does anybody remember what happens if your kite winds around the power line?
Time to get a new kite.
Pull tight.
You remember that?
We worked this last quarter on also getting new photos for all of our police department staffing, so as well as sworn officers, all the staff members and our canine officer got their own professional picture so that we have updated pictures that we can send out in the event of a press release.
Is that Lieutenant Hogue? The
It
professional
is.
picture?
I didn't even know you were going to be here.
That's Lieutenant Hogue right there.
Yeah, so everybody has a nice headshot now that we can send out that looks professional, that in the event that something happens, which we've had actually a lot of interest in the last year or so, more and more so from Portland metro area with police activity that goes on out here. We want our agency to look professional. We want to have professional shots that we can use when something happens so that we're ready to go. And you can see all those pictures in the annual report that was published.
If we do that, Portland will just steal our officers.
As long as their face is blurred out so they can witness protection.
There you go. I also worked on the Arts Commission, had their Little Free Library grand opening down at Grey Cliffs Waterfront Park. That was a partnership with the St. Helens High School Woodshop program. They had a student that built that for them, and they worked with them to advertise it ahead of time. We got pictures over to the school district. They advertised it in their good news letter that goes out each week, and went to the grand opening to get some pictures and put them on our page. We've had other Little Free Libraries in the past, but this is our first officially registered one that went into Grey Cliffs Park. So it's on that official website where people all over the world can look up where libraries are available and then go find them. We had obviously our monthly newsletters that go out, which involves collecting a lot of information from all of our departments and collating them and then sending them out for edits, getting those edits together and then sending them out to the public on a monthly basis. We started to have Cohi radio shows again. So we did 2 this last quarter now that they're almost fully back up and running again with their new antenna. I think he's hoping to do one more fix, and he hopes that that will broadcast farther than they are right now. But I imagine that we will be back on track with the number of shows that we're doing there again. And that often involves like coordinating with other departments. Matt came to the last one to talk about the budget. So just depending on the time of the year, trying to work with other departments to see what it is that we want to talk about and make sure that we're highlighting the important things that are going on in the city. One thing of note is the police department held their first annual awards banquet this year and invited some other agencies to come that had that were awarded with some life-saving awards by our department for partnerships with those other agencies. One of them, you can see in that Facebook post, was one where OSP responded to a call that our officers were on, and the local papers picked it up, and then it made it into the Portland metro area and was pretty widely covered. We just received this last quarter that shared routes to school grant, so we did some advertising on that. The funding was received, but we haven't started to work on it yet. But we shared info about funding for providing safer routes to school for our kids. The If I Were a Mayor student contest is currently going on right now. We've done a lot of
Deadline's in May something, right?
No, the deadline is next week. So you have until next Tuesday. Yes.
Submit you got a chance to win $100 or even, and then go to state and
Yes.
win even more.
3 categories, $100.
Oh, and lunch with me. That's right.
So we've done
Or something.
a bunch of promotion with that, press releases, advertisements on social media, worked with the school district. It went out on they have an online way that they disseminate information to parents now. So it went out on their Peach Jar app that they have. And we put posters in the schools that we designed, and we have our final post coming up to advertise that is scheduled for this Friday. So yes, again, if you are listening and you have a student in grades, I believe it's 4 through 12th, there are 3 categories, and there's a $100 cash prize for each category. And we tend to not have a lot of high schoolers, so I would encourage high schoolers to apply because your odds are very good.
Yep.
The library had a lot of events this last quarter. They had a conversation project as well as their second annual Maker Fest event at the library on Saturday in March, I believe. And they've had a lot of STEM workshops through that grant that they received a while ago that allowed them to expand their STEM programming and hire a part-time assistant who is a high schooler locally. So we've had some really good events. That picture there is from a Zines workshop. That was a 2-day workshop that they did at the library. We've had several grant-funded blitzes for the police department. They're always usually funded through either State of Oregon or NHTSA funding that comes for focused no tolerance campaigns. So we had a safety belt blitz, child seat blitz, and distracted driving blitz. Often those involved required press releases either before and after the grant. So we send those out as well as putting stuff on social media. For the distracted driving one this last time, if you follow the police department's page, I pulled info off of NHTSA's website, and we, over the last 2 weeks, have shared some statistical info about distracted driving to encourage people to put their phones down and to help keep our roads safe. We've had worked on website updates, particularly when it comes to partnership information that we've been sharing that sometimes requires some more website update info because we don't generate the info ourselves, and oftentimes the event information from these partner agencies isn't available on their website. So for that, it involves doing some work on our website to get that info on our website so that we can then link that info to, because Twitter only allows so much content to go out when you share info. We have to do some website work on the back end to share that info. National Library Week was this last week, and in leading up to that, Gretchen, the youth librarian, was contacted to be part of a statewide library competition to highlight Library Week. So Oregon libraries across the state collaborated to highlight youth services through a puppet competition. And for us, that involved putting out 2 videos, which if you haven't visited the library's Facebook page, I would encourage you to do that. We did not win, but we held up pretty well compared to some of the cities that were competing.
We didn't win?
We did not win. But we did pretty well.
Every device I had access to.
We were up against some pretty big cities. So I saw the stats for where we fell, and I was actually very impressed with how our city did compared to, Oregon City was a participant, Deschutes County. Those are all counties and cities that have a large population.
I was impressed, not that I'm a puppet aficionado, I was impressed with the professional grade and the maturity and the content of our presentation. So it was top notch.
We'll be looking at it just a little bit later.
Well, thank you.
I just thought, that was just really unique and original content, much like the officer clause. It was just really cool to do that. And, we're small, but we're mighty.
We are small, and we work with what we have. As I said before, I think I said we're working on more video content. Obviously, video, especially on Facebook, is a great platform for marketing, but it does take a lot of time. I haven't had classes in video editing, so I'm learning as I go, doing lots of Googling, but it creates great content when we have the time available.
Some of those teenagers.
I know.
Video junkies.
Yeah. Yeah, do you have a YouTube channel? We're looking. We also had the winter rec guide that came out, so I helped with the editing on that as well as promoting when it was available, which leads into working with Shauna and Ryan to promote the individual events as they came up. When they have needs and spots that they need filled, we have advertised some of that. We did some paid advertising for the spring camp that they had, which will highlighted what the summer rec program looks like for kids. I've spent a month in demos with multiple services for social media archiving. So archiving is obviously a requirement of government in general. We have to archive what we create. That is included in social media, we can't not archive our social media platforms. We currently work with a service that we've been with for quite a while, but I've done a couple of meetings with an agency that to look for some of the compliance gaps that we currently have. So we're looking at switching to a new service so that we can ensure that we are meeting our requirements that the state of Oregon requires of us. One of which is things that social media is ever evolving. So Facebook recently just allowed people to delete their direct message comments if it's within 10 minutes of sending a message. So we have to make sure we're capturing things like that, because if something were to ever happen where we needed to provide those records and they were deleted, we have no way of capturing that right now. The same is true of things like video comments. When people reply to messages, we're not in compliance with that either. So we're working to get into compliance very shortly.
Do you think this is why some communities walk away from social media?
I think a lot. No, I don't. I mean, it is one aspect.
Communities might be
Yes.
a little bit apprehensive.
When social media became a hot new thing, there were a lot of smaller agencies that reached out to us that asked us who we used and what we did. And that is a factor. It is very expensive to archive social media.
It's a beast.
It is. So this new company that we're looking at actually provides a flat fee so that it doesn't matter the number of accounts that we have, we pay the same amount.
Or if we have 1 million followers.
Or if we have, yes. Which on our Spirit of Halloween Town, I mean, that's sort of our beast of an account, that because we have that account and there are so many followers and so much interaction with it in September and October, it drives our pricing up because it requires a lot of archiving.
Pay per click, pay per impression.
Yeah. So we're going to make sure we're in compliance with that. Brandon Sunding from the Museum Association contacted me a while ago to work on last minute holding a 130th anniversary celebration for the city of St. Helens. So CCMA took the lead on that, thankfully, and put together a wonderful presentation that they held at the library and the Columbia Center Auditorium. You can see the picture in the top there if you didn't make it to that event. It was very well attended, and there was some discussion afterwards, I think, about holding another event because people were very interested.
Holding another, or it'd be cool that there are some museums out there when they do this, they have a videographer to have him do even a smaller one and videotape the whole thing so it could be preserved on their website.
Yeah.
I was unfortunately somebody in the hall that got to listen but not hear a lot.
Yeah.
So the theme of the Kiwanis Parade is St. Helens' birthday.
130th.
There you go.
We also have been working to advertise Columbia County Reads 2019 over the last few months. Again, we took the lead on that. St. Helens Public Library as an agency who has more capacity compared to all the other libraries in our area. So we've done some heavy advertising, both in the creation of press releases and flyers and social media, but also doing some paid advertising. This is actually a pretty unique event that I think will have a good turnout because it's 2 books that one is a work of fiction and one of nonfiction that share a true story of slavery in Oregon from the 1800s. So there's been a lot of interest in that. And that the author events are happening next week. So check out the library's website or Facebook page, and you can get the info on the authors will be at 4 of the different libraries all of next week. We also had several job openings, which continue through this new quarter, and new hire announcements that we covered. The Recreation Center held their open house this last quarter, so we advertised that ahead of time and then at the event. And I have attended several of the 2019 Reserve Academy classes to get some more video and pictures for future advertising when we need more reserves. And you've held several public forums recently. We've had more public forums than usual, so we're trying to work to highlight those a little more than we would normally do, which normally we would just, Kathy creates either a press release or an ad that she sends to the newspaper. But I've been trying to put more info about that in our newsletters if the timing hits right, as well as on social media. And as always, something that happens in the background that you don't hear a lot about is we get a lot of photo requests throughout the month or throughout the quarter. So whether it's from newspapers that can't attend events that we were at that we could get photos for, which is great for us because it means we get coverage in the newspapers that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise, to partnership agencies where they couldn't make it to an event but they would like to cross promote, so we send them pictures, and then many internal departments that send me requests for reports or whatever that they're doing that they need a picture for. So some of the future stuff that we have coming up in this next quarter, continuing to work on that paper newsletter insert that's going into the utility bills. Hopefully getting that social media archiving compliance finished and transitioned over so that we can make sure we are in compliance with state rules. We have summer reading program that's coming up, so we have adult and children's versions of that we will be advertising. The spring recreation program guide is in editing, almost final editing phase right now. Matt sent me the final draft to review one more time, and then that should go out. We have Citizens Day in the Park that has a date now, which is, do you know what that date is?
June 22nd.
June 22nd, so that's coming up soon, so we will need...
Citizens Day in the Park.
How does it collate to Kiwanis Parade Day?
I think...
The following week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's the week after.
Okie dokie. Just checking.
And then obviously tourism projects and events will start to pick up. Citizens Day in the Park, 13 nights. Always at this quarter, we start to get a lot more requests for Halloween Town stuff already. So I imagine, because magazines need a lot of lead print time, so I imagine we'll start to see some of those requests come in for video and for photos from some of the major magazines in the area. And then we continue to have our monthly First Thursday programs with the police department. The next one that comes up is in May. I am sure that will be very highly attended. We just put the press release out on that. We are partnering with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office to do a canine program community event. So we'll have 3 of our canine dogs in the county at that meeting that people can see demos and meet them up close.
Do you think that the libraries can be big enough?
I do not know. It could end up being like the Museum Association event. But yeah, sometimes I think a lot of people will show up and they don't. And I think this one will be well attended though. I'm not going to go in detail through all of the social media stats. That's in the back of the report that you can review yourself if you're interested in. The one thing I want to highlight in the social media stuff is the libraries page. We paid to promote the library as a Facebook page this last quarter, so you see a pretty decent jump from the average trend in the number of followers that we have this last quarter, and that was just through our paid advertisement that we did. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you, Crystal. Okay, so let's have Aaron come up. I'm sure that's why he's here. It's not Neil. We're going to review annual recommendation to adjust Cascade Reserve allocation. Okay.
So for most of you, you know Councilor Topaz, this is the first time I think you've seen this, but every year we look at the loading coming into our secondary lagoon based on what the city and the industries that go through the collection system dump into the lagoon as opposed to what Cascades does. We take the loading over the whole year, we average it, and then we put a minimum percentage down, and that's for budgeting, and then whatever they come for the month, if it's higher than the minimum percentage, they pay that, but it's always going to be that minimum. Last year it was 86.3%. This year the numbers show it was 79.8%. Typically there's, we give you the numbers. It is what it is. It's not, we can't adjust the numbers. This is the loading into our secondary lagoon, so.
It's because they got the clarifier fixed.
Yes, and you can see exactly when that clarifier was fixed. If you look at the ME is mill effluent, so if you look at their BOD, you can see that in June it was finally online.
Yep.
Any questions? I'm trying to keep under my 10 minutes.
Nope.
So this
I
is
don't-
on the agenda for tonight too.
Okay. Yep. It's pretty cut and dry.
It is.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. Perfect. I made it some time there. Okay. So we're going to review Godfrey Park Master Plan. Matt, we're on the discussion on the recreation fee. Oh, there's Jacob. I'm sorry, Jacob.
Portable privies.
You don't like me anymore? Is that
No. Is this the email about the porta potty that sat 2 years ago or 3 years ago in front of the?
Yeah. My introduction, in these divisive times, we need to think of things that unite us, and we have to think about our commonalities.
Thanks, Jacob.
And one thing in common that we have is we all have to go.
Yep. That's
Of course,
true.
you know what I'm talking about, because we're talking about portable privies.
Well, it happens.
It does.
Yes.
It happens.
It does happen.
And it has to go somewhere.
Yep.
And normally.
And usually it goes to Aaron.
It does.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
gone.
It goes to Aaron. And our policy is for it to normally to go to Aaron. But in some cases, that doesn't work because it requires a lot of infrastructure. So the reason this is coming up is when the sewer ordinance was updated not too long ago, our existing portable privy regulation was accidentally removed. Nobody caught it. And it's actually something that we've kind of used in the last several years. And so it's kind of been burning on my mind because it's something that I have had to consider. And so that's why we have this for you. And in thinking about these rules, I've thought about ways to improve them a little bit. And so it's kind of a blessing in disguise. This forced us to have to write it. And so if you're writing it, you might as well improve on it. So I wanted to, this ordinance is on tonight. It's something that we haven't really discussed. I wanted to make sure everybody's okay with it. It's a simple rule. I'm hoping not to spend too much time on it. But if we need any subtle changes, we can do that before tonight. So the existing rule was basically the temporary use of portable privies may be authorized by the superintendent, public works director, or found necessary to serve workers on a construction project or otherwise serve a short-term or emergency need. And this has come up for properties that may not have the best utility access, and then other things like food carts. And what I've done is talk to Neil and as the public works person. So here's what we propose, and this is written in this draft ordinance. It's already inferred in the code. It's nice to have it in black and white. One, it's not allowed for permanent uses with one exception that's in here. And
what's the exception?
So we'll get into that very soon.
Okay.
So when can they be allowed? Public Works Director may allow the use of them temporarily for workers on a construction project. Of course, that makes total sense.
Yep.
For community events, of course, we already do that. For emergencies, that's natural. And then on an ongoing basis, to serve public parks or public open space. I've seen them out there, so I'm like, well, we should probably make that the law. The other thing I added is the planning director, my position, may authorize those also associated with temporary uses. It's not a permanent use, it's a temporary use, so the food cart is a good example. Now, if you're uncomfortable with that, you can keep that power with the public works director. I really don't care. It's just trying to make things efficient. And it's going to go away. A temporary use is not a permanent use. And then we also just put something in there that says, the tanks are supposed to be watertight so they don't leak. Now, and I'm surprised he's not here. Al Peterson did remark on this proposal and brought up an issue where there was a porta potty in front of the Columbia Theater for some type of infrastructure project. And when I was working on this, you know, I was thinking, oh, all these things, and I'm like thinking to myself, keep it simple, man. You know, this is to myself when I'm writing this stuff. It doesn't need to be complex. And that was a unique situation. It's in the right of way. It's a city project. But I do have some proposed language if you think that concern is something worth acknowledging and adding more to the code.
Well, I was confused by that email because he knew that you were getting ready to draw up this ordinance, or what?
Well, I think he saw it on the agenda, and it brought up that issue that he had great concern of.
Because that happened like how many years ago?
5.
5? 6 years ago in front of the movie theater?
And it was.
Since I've been on council.
And as you know, there's going to be so many different scenarios. That was a contractor of the city who had work in the street. I think that was a convenient place for them to do it. So I do have an extra provision we can add, and I can explain that to you if you want to go there.
I want to keep it simple. Our contractors have enough issues with state and city and county regulations, and a porta potty doesn't need to be one more.
But it's temporary, so it's going to go away.
Yes, yes.
Temporary is 2 hours or 7 days or a month. That's all temporary. If it's in a passageway where you're going to impede people or have them move into the street into traffic, then it's not a trivial problem. If you could put it conveniently around a corner or some words that you're not by position are causing a hazard, a physical hazard.
It can't be detrimental to someone's livelihood. And I mean, I see the point of if I have a nice restaurant and you're widening the street, I don't really want a bank of porta potties in front of my business. There's a better way to do this.
And so there's two trains of thought. One, if it's a city project, you ask the city, hey, do you mind moving this? Two, you put something in the code.
Leave it the way it is.
I do not agree with that. Yep.
The
We're
possibility.
opening up a door that can interpret code, and your porta potty's not to code, and
That could happen, yeah.
This is just absolutely
It could
asinine
it could
that we
become
even
one of
have
those
this.
things.
I would have to say that this opens up a door that can go. Everybody can get passionate about. I can see this conversation about porta potties going on for the next 25 minutes if we want to sit here and discuss it, or do we want to keep it simple and move on?
I think at that point, the problem was with the Public Works Director at that time, and with the complaint fielded by a person in our community. It wasn't involved with the business. I think that was in front of. However, it's the Public Works Director's call of where to put that. It's the Public Works job, and it should be the call of the Public Works, and that person should be the person responsible for the placement of where that should go. I think it's just simple.
Okay.
Yeah, but if it's written down that that's his call, that's fine. If it's not written down and he comes up and says move it, does the contractor have to move it? That's the question. Yeah. If it says, convenient location commensurate with the approval of the Public Works, no problem. If you just don't see anything, you put it in a parking spot in the middle of the street. Not really a good place to put it, but
I think Mr. Topaz has a good point, but I just want to reflect on what caused this was a personal conflict between the person in our citizenry and our Public Works Director at that time. There was a huge conflict at that time, and so this manifested into what we have today.
You're always going to have conflicts with people unless you can somehow give a guidance. The next three sets of people, no problem. Fifth set, you got a war.
I think I would agree that possibly with the jurisdiction, the placement is the jurisdiction of the Public Works Director. It's his project or her project, and so why not allow them to be in charge of with the placement of the privy?
But he's talking in general, and that's what I'm saying. In general, it's not just Public Works, it's in general as far as placement of that for, doesn't have to be a Public Works project. It
Could be a private party.
Yeah, yep.
In general, just unspecific.
So-
Theater, wouldn't the building inspector to move, to go, this isn't right, to move it, even if it wasn't in the code?
I'm sure there's other things that would apply. If you're blocking a major exit, it's probably a building code violation.
There's other ways to circumvent this without writing intricate policy.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So the major changes as currently written are, we're saying it's okay to have ongoing basis for public parks and open space. And it's the Public Works Director, unless it's temporary use permits, in which it can be planning director authority. Now, if you want to keep that with the Public Works Director, I really don't care.
The placement of it?
No, the for the purposes to have portable privies with temporary use permits.
Oh, okay.
So, Public Works Director can authorize them in other cases. Planning Director can authorize them for the purposes of temporary use permits. Classic case is the food carts.
Perfect.
Now the question is, can the people who are allowing the placement, can they make a suggestion on placement?
Well, for the purpose of the temporary use permit, you will need a site plan, and undoubtedly. And if the I think that's kind of inferred. If they're authorized to allow it, they're going to make sure it's in the right place.
Okay, so we've got a mechanism. You've got to give us a site plan so we can see where we're going to put it. We're worried about the random one that the porta potty user is placing where he wants it, and it may be in the wrong place.
I think that's one of the concerns.
And so someone should be the finally referee of where you can put it. That can just be a blanket statement. The person who's allowing the placement of this, whether it's Public Works or planning.
Well, let me read this other statement that's not written on here, okay? Just to help with this conversation. So, location of portable privy subject to city approval. Location consideration shall include public health and safety welfare factors, which is the general purposes of city law. And when possible, avoid obstructing principal business facades, both physically and visually.
Sounds like you're done.
You're done.
So that I think that would cover Al's concern, and
Anybody's concern.
it's basically saying try to avoid not putting them in front of businesses.
Yeah, but your statement ahead of that is safety.
Public health, safety, and welfare.
Yeah, safety will get you a lot more traction.
I think that statement is very comprehensive. It covers the reason that we have government, and then adds the whole in front of business thing.
That statement is good.
So if you want to add that, that's easy. I can do that and give it to Kathy for tonight.
Is everybody done talking shit? Okay.
So do you do want that additional piece?
I'm okay with what I want. Simple, whatever you need to do,
What
do
you
it.
read is perfect.
Like I said,
Okay,
this
beautiful.
could go
Thank
on
you.
for- Okay, now we're going to Matt. Godfrey Park Master Plan Presentation.
You had to be just waiting to use that line, right? Okay. Kathy, if you can go to we'll start right there. So I'm going to quickly go through a master plan. This was shown to the Parks Commission at their last meeting and generally approved with a few additional things that they would like to see that I'll mention at the end when we get through the basics. But this is a aerial view of Godfrey Park of the master plan, obviously connecting to 2nd Street up at the top and 4th Street at the bottom. A couple things I want to mention that went into
how we got to this master plan was our goal was to provide a nature play area that was in our master plan back in 2015. We wanted to use natural and available materials, improve accessibility, and a design that would be basically installed all by staff, so we didn't have to hire an outside contractor adding additional costs. So we also looked at the best and most cost-efficient budget that we could. We threw out the master plan number, which was about $30,000. You'll see we're pretty close to that with some considerations. So we also wanted to create a plan that could be installed in phases, so we didn't have to do everything all at once. So you notice that in the big picture, we really keep intact the main path that connects 2nd and 4th Street. When the consultants were there with myself, Sue Nelson, Neil, Jenny, a couple of consultants, we had actually a fair amount of people that were walking the path that we were able to talk to, as well as residents from some of the surrounding houses that saw obviously a group of people in suits and everything out there and wondering what was going on. So gave us a lot of opportunity to talk to the current residents about what they see, some of the issues that they have at the park, and how we can hopefully mitigate some of those going forward. Another key aspect was, what do we want to retain in this park? So the current shelter that is there is kind of shown as the hub of the park. So it's where you and your family will go, you can hang out, and we wanted to make sure that any of these play areas could really be set up so that mom or dad or anybody could take a seat under the shelter and could watch their kids at any of the play areas. Another key factor was to push everything to the left side of the path. So as most of you probably know, there is a huge cliff on the other side, and we wanted to help push any kind of activity away from the cliff just to avoid any kind of liability. We've also shown you might be kind of hard to see on the line there, but there's some dotted lines of where we've at least discuss the possible idea of putting some kind of a fence or railing system over that embankment.
Put a fence and bring back the goats. Bring back the goats. Those were cool.
So I'm going to go through just a really quick overview of these 6 little, what we call little pod areas. Each little pod has its own activity, its own distinct characteristics that we feel lend to a lot of these goals that we're trying to achieve in this park. Can you go to the next? Go to the next one here. So actually, sorry, Kathy, can you go back up? So I'm going to quickly go through a quick summary of the play areas, and then the next following pages are some examples and pictures of what we may see in those areas. So starting from the top is a little performance center. We connect the path into a little climbing room, a swing area. So we did take into consideration that we are removing some of the current playground equipment, so like a swing set and a slide. So we wanted to make sure and add those amenities back in.
So you're taking the big slide out?
We are taking the big slide out, yes. Yep. And it doesn't really work. I tried to go down it, and I don't slide very well down it. It's tall. It's nice.
You might need additional training.
I might need additional training. A little oil or something on the slide. But
wax paper.
Wax paper. So, from the swing room off to the right a little bit, we do a small little toddler room that is purposely put as close to the shelter as we can. And then we go a little bit south toward, whatever direction that, somewhat southeast or whatever, toward 4th Street. We get into a little bit of a rock room play area as well as a labyrinth area. And then over on the right side, we're adding some aspect of a sensory garden with a couple benches and a little side path to go on to. So that is a very brief overview. Over to the left, we currently have about 4 horseshoe games over there. We're planning on keeping at least a couple of those. We've got some comments that they were somewhat used, but not heavily used these days. But we wanted to keep those amenities, and you can see we've added some pathing to go around that area. Also adding some additional lawn area for any kind of picnics or anything, and just general play area. So I'm going to go through the next few pages, which are some pictures and ideas. One other thing I want to mention that was kind of cool, we tried to add in on the bottom left there, you'll see a little thing that says embankment slide. The consultants that came out really wanted to try and use
some of the topography that we currently have there. So we thought, what better way for kids to be able to enter a park than on the top of 4th Street being able to take a slide down. It would be obviously a purchase slide, and there would be improvements and safety improvements to be able to do that.
Have you seen the big one in Astoria they did that with?
Yes, that was one idea that was brought up when we were talking about that. So the performance room was an idea that was brought in as kind of an area for kids to do activities, plays, groups could come in, shoestring players or something like that that could do activities or play areas in that area. General seating area can be done more professionally, like what you see on the left with some logs and maybe an actual stage one day. But for right now, what we're really focusing on is something probably more on the right side that's a little bit more developed with some of the local timber that we can use to create some sort of a performance room in the center. The climbing room is pretty intense. It's a climbable and playable structure similar to what you see in the pictures above. The swing room is where we'd like to add obviously the swings that we have taken out with this plan, as well as adding an ADA accessible swing like you see in the picture below. And that particular type of swing is included in the price estimate that you're going to see at the very end. So we know the ADA swing was something that was very popular on some of the other playgrounds, so we wanted to add that accessibility into this. The rock room on the right is basically just some elements of rocks and climbing apparatuses that are fairly low to the ground. There obviously will be fall protection and specific designed bark chips that are designed to be fallen on, so you're not going to cut yourself or anything like that. But it's really just an area where kids can climb and play and jump.
Those actual, it'll be real rocks?
They could be, yes.
Okay, we have plenty of rocks.
Correct. Like I said, this design was intended to focus around already materials that we already have accessible to us.
And I think we might even have a few trees down over at Boise Cascade that could be set up, cut up and set up.
Correct.
Yep.
So the embankment slide, like I talked about just briefly, would be set up along 4th Street so that kids would have a really fun way to enter the park area. So that would be one of the few purchase items that we would set up or purchase and then install, have Public Works staff install that. The toddler room that I mentioned is kind of right near where the pavilion kind of area is really just a menagerie of little small equipments that toddlers can pound on. It's kind of like a small sensory area space where kids can come play, pound on drums, ride on some of the small equipment, but still be close to mom and dad. The sensory garden, we originally kind of put that over a little bit north, but Jenny and Sue's suggestion was to move that more toward 4th Street just because it gets a little more sunlight, and there's a lot of trees in that area. So we've installed what would be a little sensory garden of some different kinds of plants, and that would at least bring some of your senses out if as you kind of walk through the area and maybe take a seat on one of the benches that we have laid out. The other area would be a little labyrinth room similar to what you see in the pictures above. It's really easy to do and actually has become pretty popular in some of these type of parks because obviously it's very small rocks or logs or something that can create that labyrinth area. Just a relaxing place to go walk, think, something that's always good for kids as well as adults as well.
So something to think about in future is maintenance on these areas. I know the pictures make it look great, but the sensory garden, who's going to maintain that? Who's going to maintain a weed-free rock garden? This is what I do for a living. So when we do not have, we need to be also thinking about the future as far as budget and future budget, that it's going to be there and be done right and not too much, but enough that it meets the needs of. It kind of looks a little high end as far as I like the concept, but it seems like a lot of maintenance.
One of the issues about the garden is the garden club is open to smaller pockets of garden areas to help maintain. As you know, what they've done in McCormick Park and what they've done around especially in the middle of our streets up there on Columbia Boulevard is very favorable to our city. I would approach the garden club to see if they could adopt a small pocket garden like this, and that could be one answer. But I'm concerned about the Labyrinth and people throwing rocks all over everywhere, kids grabbing rocks and wanting to toss them or whatever. They'd have to be somehow adhered down or whatever.
Just
I would think.
as a follow-up to the garden maintenance, there's a place that I visit with a group in Portland that they actually offered to help us do anything like this because they partnered with local groups, and who they chose as partner were retirees and people with special needs, because that's who the garden was designed for. So the maintenance of the garden became part of people's therapy. So there's other avenues as where you involve citizens. We don't inherently involve in these things. We make things and we don't even invite them to the table. So maybe there's more research to be done about maintenance and about sustainability, because I'm sensitive to putting too much on the garden club, as all of our membership organizations are aging and shrinking, and we don't want to give them more than they can take on.
Great. And these pictures that you're seeing are really meant to be more of a demonstration of what can be done. They're not exactly what would be chosen by staff and public works staff. Definitely the maintenance aspect issue, and for budgetary reasons later on in our park staff capabilities of having enough staffing to do everything will definitely be taken into consideration. That's one of the reasons why we're going to build this in stages.
When I look at this, I think it's a lousy job. I'll tell you why. These little trinkets are nice, but it's regimented. The kids can only do this here, that there, and the other thing. There's no benches around these areas where the grandkids can watch their kids. Oh, they can be over at the pavilion, but I want to be next to the kid with my little cell phone. There's a fantastic nature walk down along the stream. The access is from 3rd Street on the south side, and yet we're trying to totally avoid a major part of the goodness of that park. We have worse conditions over Nob Hill, and nobody complains about how steep the walls are over there, and yet these are not that bad. And the kids at one time used to take the liner of a pickup truck and slide down those banks, so they were much more creative. But the business of saying this is what we're going to do, the climbing is great. There are better places for hills to put that park on the ground mid park rather than at the entrance, in much longer slides after you get the old sewer pipes out of there that the neighbors used to. I mean, the history of some of that park and what was dumped in the bottom is bad news, but we're throwing away a good half of the park down along that stream, and there's good access to it in the heavy construction road that they used when they were trying to drive the drainage equipment under 2nd Street down to the river. So
we can take those into consideration. A couple things that I want to mention on your comments, though. Kathy, can you go back up to one of the, probably page 3 or 4, I think it is, where it's kind of the description of each. There you go. So around each little pod area, it is meant to be encapsulated and surrounded by sitting apparatuses, so whether that be logs, whether that be rocks, where if parents do want to sit in an area with a child, they could sit there and supervise their child as well. The other thing that we try to do is, you see this the path on the right side that kind of connects each area. That's really meant to be so that kids can go in one stage area and go right to another. They're also broken up sort of, and as an ideal thing, is by age.
Well,
so
see,
as you get older, you can play in more areas and go to different.
See, that's what I find is wrong. I don't want to break down the freedom of a child's mind to say, we're going to suggest you stay on the path from here to there. I don't want them to use the grass. I would like to really expand the area we attract, use, entertain both the handicapped and the people who are retired. That, I think, should be much more expanded. we're finding that where there are handicap facilities, the normal kids integrate with the handicap kids to join together. But when I see something, and obviously depiction of round is a very organized, paths are very organized, not using the very biggest part of that park, which is the nature in that stream. I know the kids are going to get into it. This looks like a city park where I got buildings 18 stories around the whole thing. We're in the country, kids. Let's use it.
So I would say that those are great options and ideas, but they may not be suited specifically for this park. We have a very large park system in this city, and there are plenty of other parks that you could visit that do have more space and more apparatuses.
If I have a park 2 blocks from me, I'm not going to walk 25 blocks to the other park because it's more appropriate. I'm going to use the one next door to me. Like we use the 4th Street Hill when we get real snow.
And I will say there is still some pretty big areas. I know this is a small picture, but when you're actually out there, the lawn area that we're going to create is actually an open play area, as well as the horseshoe area and the embankment slide area provides some freedom for kids to play in as well.
So this is focused on a children's park, basically.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's
Yep.
concept. It's
But-
not we're buying this kit.
Correct. It's not.
It's a
It's not a one all-in-one shop kind of thing. The other thing that was really stressed from Jenny and Sue's point was that this is, and also the residents and people that were there when we were actually looking at this park, is the amount of use of this path from 2nd Street all the way to 4th Street. So that was one really big detail that we wanted to focus on, improving that path and the walkway and the trails around the city.
I like your idea, and I also like Mr. Topaz's idea. And I would encourage a committee. Mr. Topaz would be the first to be on it, I'm sure, to help come up with and augment the plans that you have and make it workable. I would invite a few residents in our community. I would invite maybe a couple off our council and some of our Parks Commission people possibly, and just throw out what can this be and what else can it be other than what we have. Because you mentioned in the Parks meeting that this is going to be a works in progress in a sense, and we don't know. It's just starting out with this concept, and I think Mr. Topaz needs to realize that this is the start of an idea. It is a concept rather than a plan, as far as I can see. And I'd like to see the plan nurture as people get involved and help do that. But I do think a committee needs to be defined and developed.
There are 2 features that you don't point out that are historically critical and are going to be. There's a large corrugated steel stormwater drain that dumps into the stream at the south end, and there's a pile of rocks at the end of it, but it's undercutting itself right now. The other thing is where the stream comes in, and the original reason, there used to be a waterfall, as you know, going into this park. There used to be also a tunnel, and some of the old folks talk about catching bats, and some of that is available still to be seen at the very south, basically southwest end. And that part should be taken a look at as far as possibilities, what you could do with it. We also have some trees on the south side that are going to part company with the bank and cave in. So we've got to worry about the south side of that and the very end of that from the historic point of view.
So this concept plan was kind of identified and somewhat vetted out during the park master plan process, as well as with the Parks Commission as well. And I'm happy to take that back to them and have them do some additional work. I'm happy to help out on the financial side, as I'm mainly presenting this because I was part of the group that went there with the consultants. But it's mainly been Jenny's brainchild from the beginning to come up with this nature play idea, as well as Sue Nelson in Public Works and Thad and Neil that were there as well, that really talked more history about the park itself, as well as the goal of getting people away from the cliff side that is pretty dangerous there, and using some of the resources over there. I do want to mention at least a couple things that the Parks Commission did mention that they would like to see added to this project. One is the entrance on 2nd Street to this path. We walked up there and it's a pretty dismal entrance into the park, something that can be well improved. That was one addition that the Parks Commission suggested, was re-looking at that entrance as we develop this park to be something a little more inviting into the area. The other thing that was mentioned by the Parks Commission was a dog play area. You'll see on the bottom side we do showcase kind of a new restroom there. That's based on the restroom that we put at Gray Cliffs Park. That is not in the budget for this, but we wanted to make sure it was there on a master plan somewhere for that when grant funds become available, we could apply, and a plan would already be set in place to do that. But the dog play area would be similar to not a fenced play area, but just a general park area, whether it be bark or some similar product where dogs could relieve themselves. There's trash bags there, but it's not a fenced dog area.
I thought we were done talking that.
I always like to talk about shit.
As you know, the neighbor to the south corner's got some big dogs, and they won't want a dog play area right there at all. There's also, fairly close to that, a dog grooming business. And the dogs are going to like to go down in the bottom. This is, I say, trying to have a park that creates imagination. This really limits imagination. That's my really big concern. We have a lot of natural stuff that we don't investigate. Anything's a danger. And as I say, if you think this is a danger, close down Nob Hill. That's much worse.
So Matt, are we close to finishing your presentation? Because
I was
trying
just
to follow an
gonna-
agenda here, and I noticed that we have Shauna here.
Oh, yeah.
And we also have budget stuff we need to discuss.
Yep.
And my meeting's supposed to be over right now.
We can go.
fully
Yes.
understand. So I will take Mr. Topaz's comments back to Jenny and Sue and let
Yes.
them
Yep.
process whatever they would like to do and proceed how they would like to.
So yes.
So just since we're talking about it, personally, I feel that canyon over there should be fenced off, and we don't allow anybody down there.
That
because
is
there's a
the-
stream down there that's been engineered to do what it's supposed to do, and if we let people down there, it's going to get tore up. And
Correct. Some of the issues that staff brought in, other than the liability fact, was just people going down there and ruining it and putting trash down there, and just trying to push that direction the opposite way, which is what we did here.
Exactly.
So.
Okay.
Next. Who's next?
Shauna, you want to come up? Yeah, you can come sit at the table.
Hi, Shauna.
Hi.
So I'm going to quickly go through a presentation. Some of you have seen this because it was at the public forum. I will try and be as quick as possible when going through this.
Okay.
And then Shauna is here to answer any questions specifically to the program because she is there day in and day out more than I am, can answer any specific questions and give you some more information. So this is a brief timeline of how we started the program with 2 grants back in April and September, and then in November getting the recreation center and starting the renovation of that. And then the main other thing to mention was that the after school care program that was started in October as a partnership with the school district. So I wanted to touch base just very quickly on a survey that was done when we began the recreation program. We did some general questions and polled the city. We got about almost 700 residents, which is about almost 2 or 3 times more than what we have seen in response to other surveys that we have done. So we got a very huge response on this recreation survey. So a simple question of would anyone in your household utilize the program? Obviously over 90%. How much would you be willing to pay to support this program? You can see the 2 major ones were either $5 or over $5. Now, we've talked about the idea of $2 per EDU on utility bills as an additional fee to help fund the recreation program on a more sustainable feature. This is a graph to kind of show you visually how much each dollar represents as far as what revenue could be brought into the city for the recreation program.
Through the utility bills.
On the utility bills,
Yeah.
correct. So staff is suggesting a $2
fee on the utility service bill. The other option that has been thrown out was a recommendation, I believe, from Mayor Scholl was $3 because that extra dollar could be funding to be used for a feasibility study on the recreation program, potentially partnering it with the Parks Department, as well as potentially looking at as a district. And that would be similar to what CC Ryder is doing now in a service district that would go on to your property tax bills. So what do you get with the $2 bill? Basically, that $2 allows us to make Shauna full-time. Right now, she is a part-time person, also working in the utility billing office. It also allows us to hire a regular part-time recreation lead, which can be someone to help Shauna put on programs, as well as lead some of the recreation assistants that we have. It retains the after-school program and all of our current activities. It does have a limited expansion of some activities that we have because we will have more staffing available, more funding for staffing. That means that the recreation center can be open more. So it allows us to do more activities during the day, during the evening time, and weekends if needed. So also the idea of forming a district that could bring in additional money in place of the $2 fee if that were to ever get instituted. I would imagine if you did a taxing district, the $2, $3 fee would come off the utility bills. That would be a decision of the council at the time.
That's my entire idea why I wanted $3 is to get that funding, extra funding for that, and see is this going to work or not.
Correct.
You know.
Yep. So like I said, the $2 fee maintains the operations of the recreation center and allows it to be open more regularly during the day. Right now, it's pretty much open when Sean is there or when there's an actual activity going on. And then we would also like to make the recreation center available for rentals for meetings for nonprofits or businesses, as well as birthday party rentals and business rentals that can rent it for a year party or something like that. We've had a lot of interest over the last couple months of people wanting to use that building. We just haven't created a policy or fee schedule to do that yet. So I wanted to go over some quick nuts and bolts because I know Councilor Topaz brought up the issues of what money we're bringing in versus how much we're costing right now. On the personnel side, we have a recreation coordinator that is part-time. That's Shauna. She costs about $50,000 or so a year. Going to full-time is a little bit over $100,000 with salary, benefits, and insurance. The recreation lead is currently at a part-time right now, and that is the recreation lead right now is actually a seasonal position that ends at the end of the school year because it is meant as a recreation lead to help oversee the after-school program. So that job technically ends at the end of June when the school year ends. So
that's 2 part-time, right?
We have a recreation, yeah, correct. It's 2 part-time right now, and then we have a lot of rec assistants that we hire that range anywhere from high school kids to older generations, 18 or over, that can help out at the after-school program. Those roughly cost about $6,000 per year per person. That varies wildly because of how much we use them or how much we use one person or not the other and how much activities we have going on. So obviously we have a lot of things going on in the summertime. We have a lot of extra people. When in the wintertime, we don't have as many activities, so we don't need as much staffing. Materials and services, we budgeted initially about $50,000. That was a lot of some part-time, some first-time purchases for the after-school program, the preschool that we do, not preschool, the trying to go through this fast. Daycare services that you can pay $2 and you come in, and so you pay $2 for your kid to come in. We have a bunch of equipment set up all over the gym so they can come in. It's kind of like a play group. So totally right now for the next budget year, what you're going to see in 1920 is an overall cost for the actual rec program is about $200,000 of what we're looking at expenses. A big cost of the materials and services is printing costs. I'm going to be talking, John and I have talked briefly in the past about how do we kind of mitigate those printing costs. So an opportunity of raising some sponsorships and money to help pay for that printing cost is an idea, but we just haven't gotten there yet. On the revenue side, we have a few major programs. The after-school program cost is about $600 for the personnel. We try and have a ratio of 10 to 1 for the kids. So we also have to cover breaks during the day as well for those students because they work over 4 hours. So cost-wise is about $600 per week for the personnel for the rec assistants to be there.
We were talking printing cost.
We're talking the program guide that we do every quarter.
Pamphlets.
Yep.
Why not have the chamber, who's subcontracting that, maybe we can
I'd be happy to
benefit
compare the
somehow.
cost. Right now, we use Bemis Printing, our local printer, who does actually a very favorable cost to us for that program. But whether that's can be done cheaper at the chamber or something, that's something
Well,
we
yeah.
can definitely look into.
Yep.
Yep.
Either or.
So the cost of the recreation program is about $600 per week for the 2 rec assistants that we have. Revenue side from it brings in about $900 per week. Right now we have 9 full-time kids as well as sometimes up to 20 people that will just drop in either on like just Wednesdays because it's early release, or some kids come on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It just kind of depends on the parents. So we have a monthly rate as well as a drop-in daily rate. The activities that we've done so far this fiscal year, so programs, paint nights, any of those kind of activities, those have brought in so far as of March about $15,000. So I'm guessing about the end of the year we should be about $25,000, maybe $30,000 in revenue just from program activities. And some of the ideas we're looking at next year to bring in more revenue is obviously we expect some growth in the after school program. We got started in October, which is a little bit late for the school year, so a lot of parents already had after school care set up and agreed upon with another agency or a friend or parent or organization. So we do expect to see some growth in the after school program just from the numbers that we've seen so far and the interest that we've received. Also doing summer care, so kiddos will be able to come in on a daily rate or a monthly rate, and we will actually watch your kids during the summertime. You can drop them off as early as 7, pick them up as late as 6. So it's a pretty good deal, especially for those that travel to Portland. Other things we'll look into are sport camps, recreation leagues, and then potential tournaments, softball tournaments, soccer tournaments, those kind of things that we can partner with other organizations to kind of bring in some of those, and we can handle some of the administrative duties of those things going on. Kind of talked about that. Activities for next year, some funding ideas. We've talked about the taxing service district. We talked about the utility and billing fee. One thing that I have seen other cities do is that they use utility late fees as a funding mechanism. It's not something that I have suggested. It's not something that I would suggest, but I wanted to let you at least know all the options that I've actually seen other cities do. The main reason I don't like using utility late fees is because it's not a sustainable funding source. Could have several months that we only get $10,000 in late fees. Could be one month that everybody's late and we get $100,000. I mean, I don't know.
That kind of money? Really?
Not yearly, actually, the last couple of years, we've actually brought in about $110,000 in late fees. So, the main question is, how do you want to move forward from here? Do you want to move forward on a utility billing service fee that we've been discussing over the months? If you don't, then John and myself and Shauna need to have discussions about how do we wind down this program to either keep it as a part-time program. The other option is, yes, you do want to do it. And then it is the question of, do you do $2? Is it $3? Is it some other amount? And what would you like to see as this utility billing potential fee for the recreation program?
I'm going to start off with the program's designed absolutely poorly. The fact is we absolutely need a rec program. Absolutely need a rec program. And I'd like to know all the places we need it, all the after school, and when I see all the things I need and what I need, I want to see how much it costs. When I finally find out what it costs, then I'm going to want to figure out how I'm going to pay for it. When I have a pile of money and say I'm going to use this pile of money to do something, every project I've ever seen that's been started like that always screws itself up, because you are going to spend the money, but you don't get anything that you really wanted done. When you design a program that this is what we want, then you can choose what you can afford in the beginning, but at least you know where you're going. And as I say, there's a few more needs that the rec program should fill that as a growing city and bringing the community together we've got to do. And I really am against putting any bills for anything but utilities on utilities. That's a greasy slope that you start adding money too. Extra taxes anytime you come into the car or the city, we hit you with a yellow bird and take $50 from you, but don't put it on utility bills. But let's get a good program of what we want to do, not just tomorrow, but in 20 years, everything we need to grow into that and what it's going to cost as we step into each one of these steps. And we also better start looking at what kind of rec we need for people who are crippled, old, who single parents who have to work. Some of it is babysitting, not really rec, but you can teach there. Can we get the school system involved in this on a couple of the other facets?
So I'd like to speak up on behalf of the city of St. Helens, and that we created this program with the school district. And I think that we've done a fabulous job. We had a school district board member here, Bill Amos. I think we've done a fabulous job with not knowing what the exact needs of the community are, keeping it at a low budget because we both are limited to budgets. And we have continued to work good together, and that we are going to learn as we grow. And I know that you have a blacklight dodgeball coming up, teens, ages 13 through 17. Is that correct? Friday?
Yep. Or that's on Saturday. Friday we have tween night, so ages 10 through 13.
For somebody who didn't even show up at the forum, I really take it personally that I've sat with meetings with Shauna and Matt and Superintendent Stockwell and Bill Amos, and that we are continuing to do research and go over to the Family Link over in Longview. I take it very personal, and this is a city rec program that is in coalition with the school district, Councilor Topaz. And if you have all these great ideas, bring it to us. You have plenty of time. You're retired. Bring us all these, the budget and how it's going to lay out.
Ask Kathy when I found out. Thank you.
Ask Kathy what you found out.
No, when I found
I guess I don't follow what you're trying to tell me.
I always found out about it after the meeting. So it's very interesting. I'm good, but I'm not.
So I would like a $2 fee, or actually a $3 fee. That's personally me. I know the council and budget committee said $2. I would like a $3 fee. It's not uncommon. Slippery slope or no slippery slope. You can research other cities and look. A lot of them do it. And you're free to have your opinion, but when you start saying that this is terrible and that you absolutely think this is the most worst thing that could ever happen, and I put my heart and soul into those meetings and thinking about kids, and it is ADA accessible. I've seen Liam there a few times, he showed up for our appreciation dinner.
Yeah, we've partnered with the CCMH. There's a Spark group that comes in and does paint with us, and their special abilities, and we work with the elderly. So we have a lot of programs that we're doing. My main thing is to make sure things are successful and not just jump into things without knowing all the information with it. So I've been going to different meetings with the Senior Center. I've been meeting with CCMH, other community partners. We have a whole list of them to make sure that when they come into our facility, whoever it is, that we're able to offer a quality program instead of just throwing things out there. And so you see a lot of the child care stuff because that's what the biggest need has been. And we are a partner with the school district. So we have our child care after school program in Lewis and Clark. Yep. It's all STEM based, so it's science, technology, engineering, and math that we do every day with the kids. A lot of foster kids in the program.
With that partnership with the school district, is there a reciprocal with utilizing facilities? And I'm looking at other very healthy cities that utilize partnerships in very innovative ways. For example, I could see you organizing league, basketball, intramural kinds of organizations through the rec program, but utilizing the gymnasiums in the around the schools. So that way the school district steps up and helps sustain what you are developing, and that can happen over and over and over again. I know very healthy cities do that with Parks and Recs. They work with the school district in a very reciprocal way.
Yeah, so we already utilize all of their buildings, most all of them. We had a cooking class that we used their home ec class. We had 12 kids that came over from the middle school, and we taught them life skills, cooking, how to wash a cast iron pan, how to do dishes, that sort of stuff.
Pickleball court.
Yeah, I would say we're in the schools probably 25 to 50% of the time, and the other time is in the, I mean, we're already outgrowing our rec building for what the community needs and what activities. We had a play group there today. There was 33 kids that showed up to that from 9 to 1.
There was also a discussion prior, and I did let people know that you had a doctor's appointment at the beginning of the meeting.
Sean,
There was a talk about also maybe collaborating with a turf field at the middle school, just because it's not built yet, and now's the time to maybe start thinking about that. And pickleball, which is part of the rec program, all that could be tied in.
We also have programs in the summertime that are going to be coming up that have to do with soccer and basketball as well, that we will be using the school facilities for.
The thing that I think that maybe not everybody's seeing is that because St. Helens is unique, we have a different demographic of folks. Starting small and letting the community tell us what they needed, what they wanted, was better than just taking some other communities and sticking it on our town and hoping it would work. And what I've seen is in the short time that she's been doing it, the senior center that's never been open to this kind of stuff has said, sure, you can use our building. Come on over. We want to be part of this. The school district, come on over. We want you to use our building. We want our people to be involved. How can we help you? The different semi-private leagues for kids stuff and for adult stuff and coaches and, what do you call instructors for fitness are like, how can I help you? I can do a class once a month. I see groups and groups and groups and people reaching out to her saying, I want to be part of this. I want to help our community. And so that, even though it's not captured in any Matt's documents, that is saving us a lot of time.
The
And
problem
that's telling us we're doing what the community is asking for.
The
And
problem
that's not
that I
captured
see
in the
with your
report.
thing is you're doing all these things you forgot to tell anybody. If you had started out with what you were actually doing, not starting out with how much it's going to cost, I can get you. I don't like the $2. I think it probably will go higher than even $3. But we don't know that because you didn't tell us. That was really what I'm bringing up.
This came up at the budget meeting as well when we talked about the survey, is there's a large population that is pushing back on the fee that doesn't use social media, that doesn't use computers. And so they have to be reached out to in an old school, face-to-face, regular low-tech way.
I would
And
just like
mean,
to say,
some
though,
people
for the
don't know
record,
everything
that
they're
we
doing.
have not, this is not something that we have had secret and have not.
No, there's been no secret.
televising
There's
or-
been no secret, but
It's not, this is why it's on my agenda again, and it will be again. And now, wait a minute. You're saying we're holding a secret, and you can sit there and
No,
laugh.
I didn't say
And you
that.
can sit there and laugh, but I'm taking it very personally.
I know you do, and I can get you twisted up and angry like you're yelling at me now.
No, I'm not yelling at you, Councilor Topaz. I'm addressing you as far as you're saying that we're keeping this a secret. Now we're just going to impose a $2 fee, and this was talked about a year ago at Budget Committee, and you've sat through all these meetings.
I wasn't
And you
here a
literally
year
sat
ago
through all
at
these
budget meetings.
Are you sitting in on these same meetings as me? Because you heard Bill Amos give a presentation. Why didn't you attack Bill Amos?
I attack him. Don't worry about
Because
it.
of your crew that you decided you wanted to be elected official and be a part of, and and now you're actually going to sit here and you're entitled to, more than entitled to. But I also need to state this for the record. Okay? This for the record. That what happened in our budget committee meeting, and I'm going to try to make it as clear as I can. When you bring a personal attack on a lawsuit as a counselor to our meetings, that is unethical. And I'm going to bring it up now, and I just want to let you know that was unethical.
Talk to John Walsh about the federal lawsuit that started out here and see how unethical I was. The other thing is, listen to what I say. You're so upset at me talking to you and saying that it should be done a different way. You don't even listen to what I say. Did I say stop the rec program? Did I say $2? No, I didn't.
Said we were hiding it.
No, I said we didn't talk about all the things we were doing.
Councilor
Isn't that
Topaz,
correct?
You're on the record. You said you were.
Isn't that correct about
we've
all
been
the
hiding
things
this
that you
$2
said
fee.
you didn't tell us about? Because we started out with the money first, correct?
What his exact statement was is you're keeping all the great things you're doing a secret. I didn't know this. That's what he said. That was his words, is you're keeping your good work. When I made the statement about what Shauna's doing, because I've been to the rec program, that was the first time Mr. Topaz had heard that. And so he's like, I didn't know she was doing all this.
We had a forum that you didn't attend.
Right, but even the forum was just about money.
I think
So
one
maybe-
thing though, if
maybe
you
some
went,
more exposure
if you went to all of the partners and asked them about me and the program, they would know
We have a
because
schedule.
they're
Wait a minute. No,
they're showing up to the programs, and that's and we try to get Facebook exposure, which, as Crystal explained earlier, there's so many things that we can put on there, and unfortunately, I'm not able to make every meeting to say what we're doing, but I invite you anytime to come
Well,
down and see the
I will say that
programming.
we have a schedule, and so back. Just one last little side note. So what was at the budget committee meeting was, and I want to get this for the record because I want to clarify that Councilor Topaz was upset about a storm line on 4th Street that he tried to sue the city over and lost, and literally went off script and started personally attacking what it appeared to me was our engineer. And I've heard other comments that you are wanting to come after Sue. And if that is the case, that is unethical. And I'm calling you out right now just so it's for the record. Councilor Topaz.
On the record, I actually reported Sue Nelson to the state licensing board, the state engineering licensing board of bad design. And the finding at the state licensing board was they had no authority to judge her work. They also came at Topaz and they said it's illegal for you as an engineer from another state to say that you're an engineer. Now that went to the administrative court, and the administrative court said Mr. Topaz did not break any laws. The fact is that the licensing board has no authority to correct the engineering mistake. The the Court of Appeals was then brought in, and it said Mr. Topaz made a public statement which is illegal. It went to the state Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court said the property damage to a number of properties behind Mr. Topaz's place it's illegal for Mr. Topaz to speak about that. The federal court, using the court documents that Topaz generated and came in court things, said Mr. Topaz's rights, First Amendment rights, were abridged. And if we take a look, and one of these days we ought to go through the blueprints of the drainage and the fact that storm and sewer were not separated in the 3rd, 4th Street area. You will see that the engineering, according to the Clean Water Act, was not done correctly.
I need to say that that was not Sue's design.
Well, that was the design that was, she was in charge
neither
when it
here
was
nor
done.
there, neither here nor there, you brought something personal and you said that it has not been fixed to our budget committee meeting, and it was referring to your property, which is, in my opinion, unethical, that you're trying to force the city or a staff member either out of their job or to do something in order to remedy a court case that you lost. In all them courts that you just talked about, you lost that court case against the city.
Except the federal one.
Right?
Except the federal one.
Except the federal one.
The other thing is every time it rains, that problem appears not only on my property, but all those other properties. In fact, Sue said there's none of the other properties affected in the budget meeting, and John has been present to see the water flowing into properties on 3rd Street, flowing into their homes. So it is affecting them.
So I'm not going to speak on that I'm going to speak on that.
So
What I-
is
what I
unethical
just-
for an engineer, a licensed engineer, not to bring up public safety.
Counselor, you are not an engineer for the city of St. Helens.
The federal court would disagree with you. Thank you.
Well, and that's where this is where I'm thinking you are coming across unethical, is you are acting as an engineer for the city of St. Helens, and you are not. You are Counselor Topaz. So, that being said, you know what? This thing has gotten way off scripted. I'm sorry. It started with what I felt was a personal attack with all the hard work we've done with the school district. I know that you guys have both been working very hard on this project for a low budget. I am for a $3 increase. That's me personally. I welcome anybody to call my cell phone if they need to. If we're hiding any fees or anything that we're doing, there's a schedule, a summer program schedule on the city website, and you can also come down here and probably get one, or the rec center. And so, do we have other things on the presentation we need to get through?
No, the only question was, how do you want to proceed? So it's on the docket for the discussion at the next work session. Is there any more information or anything that myself or Shauna can bring to aid in your discussion?
I know that we had talked about looking at a taxing district. We've talked about other kinds of areas that we can research to make this sustainable in a sense. And then we talked about how long that would take. And I think that we discussed that maybe 2 years to look at other ways of obtaining revenue.
Yeah.
So just
Correct.
kind
So-
of for the record, I think that that's important for our citizens to know that we need to come up with another funding source other than $2 or $3.
And that's why I
just
want-
that kind of a temporary
And that's what I wanted 3 for, was to pay for that, to try to get it out to itself.
Correct. So I think what was discussed was doing an ordinance for the $2 or $3 with a sunsetting of 2 years, and then at that time, either there is a taxing district or there is another discussion like this to do something else or continue with what we're doing, or those kind of things.
I think that's a healthy way to look at it, that it sunsets at a certain time in 2 years, so that our citizens have that understanding that we've got a couple of years to figure out what we're going to do with our parks and rec. And this goes back all the way to the soda tax, about how we were going to fund parks, how we were going to do this and whatever. We really need to come up with a definite idea. We need to take it to the voters, I do believe, and get some good feedback from our citizenry.
And I think we have taken it to the voters, and yes, we have definitely done that.
Matt,
so
can I ask you a question on funding sources? Right now, a lot of our limits are state law.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a mechanism where we in other small towns could try to adjust state law?
The only thing you have is really the LOC, which is the League of Oregon Cities, that goes to the legislature on behalf of the cities. Property tax reform was one of the top selections, I believe.
It is every single session.
Yeah. How far they get, whether any decision is made, honestly, I can give you my opinion, but I'm not going to. But it's on the list every year to talk about with the legislature.
We, St. Helens and other small towns, are getting cut down by the big cities. I mean, and if we were a big city in part of Portland, some of the rules would work, but we're not. And it's basically hurting us. That's the only rational way I see of, other than this nickel and dime, the soda tax, tree tax, or whatever, is a Band-Aid. We really need a statewide overhaul.
You need property tax reform, is what
Yes.
you need. So if I can suggest something so we can move on to the next subject,
Yes.
is to, for myself and John and Kathy and Shauna to go back and create an ordinance or resolution for this $2 or $3 sunsetting fee to be brought into the next work session to continue that discussion, so you can get the language of the ordinance or resolution, what it entails, and you can have any further discussion. Does that?
At the last meeting, you wanted to have another discussion at the next work session. So it would be on May 1st, and then you wanted to have have a public forum on May 15th.
So the idea that the public forum would be the meeting before you would adopt the resolution or ordinance of the fee.
So it would coincide with that.
So still stick with that, and we will come back at the next work session and show you the
exactly
language, resolution, ordinance to do that.
Yep.
Okay. It
could be a forum, but it's also a public hearing because it'd be required.
Yes,
required
correct.
To have a public
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah, I'm focused on the next work
Yes.
session.
Public hearing.
Just I would encourage any member of the council to, take time to set up with Shauna to go by the rec center and get your questions answered about what the program entails before we have another conversation. So it's not, I didn't know they did that there. So then they'd be more a part of it, and they'd have that, not this giant confrontational situation. Sit down, have a conversation, and go, and maybe work out some of those communication issues. Might help.
I don't.
Some people aren't understanding everything.
No, I'm done with that conversation. I'm not gonna. I have too much time.
You don't have to.
Things to
You
do.
know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not telling you to.
if you're not wanting to participate, you're not wanting to participate. That's the bottom line. You can just be negative about anything and what ifs, and assume that you know all the answers without having any of the information.
Agreeing or disagreeing with you isn't being non-participant. Just the point.
I'm just, this was meeting these agendas. I just need to state this, that we need to make these agendas more realistic. It took Crystal over 30 minutes to do her presentation, and we allotted her 10. So we need to make these work sessions actually a little bit more. And I know it started out that way, but.
Yeah, the front end.
Yes. Yep.
It started out long.
So, does anybody want to sit around and eat pizza, or do you want to try getting through this? Matt, how long is this going to take?
I'm hoping it's not going to be very long. We're going to probably focus on one or two areas, but
Are we adopting this tonight?
no.
No. 'Cause
No,
we're going back
but
to budget.
I need a decision today
I'm wondering
before
if we
the
should
budget
review
meeting
this
on
tonight.
Monday. We can move it to tonight if you'd like.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so too.
We need
The exercise is about building the balanced budget.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I need to balance the budget before next Monday.
Our input, the ideas, yes.
Okay. All right. I'm good then.
All right.
Yep. Go ahead.
So let's do department reports, and we're going to skip council reports unless somebody's got something they really need to. Lieutenant Hogue.
Just expanding, we got our trailer in, and I've heard a lot of people talking tonight about having a place to meet, and that's been something that's been really difficult for us over the years, and so it'll be nice to eventually have a place to do that. We've been using businesses and other government buildings over the years, which is okay sometimes, but some of the meetings and discussions we have to have just shouldn't be at the local coffee shop. So anyway, the trailer's there, and we'll be moving in hopefully in the next month or two.
All right. Jacob, nothing to report? You got the ordinance drawn up for us? Nice and simple?
I already sent it to Kathy.
All right. Margaret?
I was hoping the council could see the work that Gretchen and Crystal did on that puppet competition, but we can hold that till tonight. It might be interesting for the public to see it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep. Thank you. Matt? Kathy? Tina? Okay. All right. Okay, sounds good. Don, you gonna?
I could do the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Defer to tonight.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, I want everybody to go enjoy dinner. I think everybody's getting hangry. That's what I like to call it. I'm hungry, so we're adjourned.
So what time we coming back here?
7, right?
6:30. Yep.
Oh, that's right.
What's the hearing?
Mitigation of hazards.
It's who?
Hazard.
Oh, okay.
Hazard mitigation update.
Didn't hear the first letter. Something, it